Stugotz here. Let's take a minute for our friends over at DraftKings. I love telling you about DraftKings. I live there. Seriously, I spend so much time there. In fact, my address is DraftKings.com. UFC 259 is this weekend, and it is sure to be action-packed with 3 title fights taking place in one night. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC, is putting you in the center of this weekend's title fight with 100-1 odds on either fighter to land a punch during the title fight. How about that? Pick either main event fighter to land a punch during this weekend's UFC 259 bout, and DraftKings Sportsbook will give you 100-1 odds. Just bet $1 on either fighter to land a punch, and if that happens, you will cash $100. Amazing. There's no better way to put your MMA knowledge to the test than to put your money where your mouth is with DraftKings Sportsbook. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, so you can deposit and withdraw your funds at your convenience. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code Dan when you sign up to turn $1 into $100. If either main event fighter lands a punch on Saturday, place your bet and watch the fist fly this weekend. That's code Dan to turn $1 into $100 if either fighter lands a punch for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or, in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT.
Well, we left our homes up in Bristol Bay for the waters of Miami shore. With a hippo at the helm and our severance pay, we fly the pirate flag once more. Pirate radio with the ship and crew. We get wind in our sails and the sky is blue. There's a devil up our nose, so much work to do. Pirate radio. Well, the ship is a wreck, shit stains the deck as Michael hollers fellas make more. And Billy is a worry that he's got the scurvy, cause Chris ate all the limes in store. Pirate radio with the ship and crew. We get wind in our sails and the sky is blue. There's a devil up our nose, so much work to do. Pirate radio. Now Roy is a chum when he's on the rum. He's the glue when we spring a leak. And Stu is a mess, he does less and less. And Greg sounded worse each week. Pirate radio with the ship and crew. We get wind in our sails and the sky is blue. There's a devil up our nose, so much work to do. Pirate radio. Someone yelled ahoy, who the hell's cabin boy? Somebody named Tony, who knows? Once we got the skip, well, a mean jumped ship, cause he knew we would sail to gold. Pirate radio with the ship and crew. We get wind in our sails and the sky is blue. There's a devil up our nose, so much work to do. For the Pirate Radio.
David Samson joins us every week here on the Local Hour. Please do me a favor, support his podcast, Nothing Personal with David Samson. David, there's nothing in this forum outside of promotion. He does this out of the kindness of his heart, and maybe he likes hearing the sound of his own voice too. But David, we thank you for joining us again. I want to lead with movies because obviously the Golden Globes happened over the weekend and it's award season, and it's a bit of a different award season. So generally, it was an awkward watch. The Golden Globes, I think anybody that likes movies and watching award show, they would tell you the Golden Globes are probably their favorite award show. Not just, I mean, get the merit and the controversy surrounding the Hollywood Foreign Press out of the way. It's just, there's drinking and it's just generally more relaxed. So your takeaway as someone that's viewed that award show in the past, this is the first time that you've watched it during a pandemic. Did you enjoy it?
So I did not. I was trying to think of an event that's taken place since March 11th of 2020 that made me realize more that we're in the middle of history. And I think the Golden Globes may be it. It wasn't the NBA playing in a bubble. It wasn't the stopping of sports, which we all sort of got used to and then welcome back. But seeing the Golden Globes virtually made me realize the only reason I actually watch is not because I care what the Hollywood Foreign Press, how they evaluate movies. I really watch it because I love the interaction between the movie stars and the TV stars at the tables, to see who's sitting with who's talking to who during commercial break, how hammered people are getting, and what's going to come out during an acceptance speech. It just felt like without that, the whole ceremony for me just went south, and I mean fast.
They tried to give us some of those moments by putting everybody nominated in a category and a Zoom together, and on their tosses to break, you got to hear some general chit-chat, in which I'm very happy no one got into hot water, not knowing that they had a hot mic situation. That was, I guess, a feeble attempt at trying to recreate some of the things that you just highlighted, David.
I thought the Emmys did a better job of going virtual than the Golden Globes, and I think that if they wanted to try to recreate some magic, I think you send cocktails to each nominee's house. So they're raising a glass at the same time, or they're having a bottle of something at the same time. But looking at people on Zoom, listen, we do Zoom meetings every day now. There's no more phone conference calls. There's Zoom conference calls. And you could just see that many of the stars were either bored of it, or they weren't paying attention, or they didn't know whether their screen was on, or they were staring into the abyss. I can't get the picture of Al Pacino out of my mind, nominated for Hunters. A, I didn't recognize him. Mm-hmm. And B, he looked as though he'd rather be sleeping on a bed of thumbtacks than on that Zoom call.
He looked like he was sleeping on a bed of thumbtacks and was woken up from his slumber to partake in that, also with a slight tinge of electronic shock. Sudeikis, I think, leaned into the casual vibe from the Golden Globes. His award speech may suggest that there was something going on, maybe not necessarily champagne. I think the tie-dye was a pretty good indicator of what was going on there. You enjoyed Ted Lasso. I know you love Schitt's Creek too. In fact, I think you told me that you're such a fan of Schitt's Creek that you bid on one of the pieces of wardrobe from that show.
Yes, Dan Levy auctioned off his wardrobe for charity, and I bought the smallest shirt because he's a bigger guy than I am by a lot, taller and wider just in every way. But one of the shirts was a small large, which makes it a big medium, and I'm sort of a small medium, so it was close enough to make it worth it. It's a black shirt with stars on the neck. It's awesome. I love wearing it out. It makes me think of Schitt's Creek. Let me get back to Sudeikis for 1 minute and remind you, he was in Europe, in England, filming Ted Lasso season either 2 or 3, probably 2. It was the middle of the night there. So it's possible that he did a wake and bake. That's true. It's possible he had not gone to bed and was totally exhausted and was on one of the downs after being baked. That's possible. Or he may have just set his alarm, woke up, put the sweatshirt on because the thought was he may not win, even though I picked him to win. I thought it was fine. People are saying he was getting over Harry Styles and Olivia Wilde, and he's getting baked all the time. Give me a break. It was the middle of the night.
It's the middle of the night, and I don't think we have to put that much judgment and read too much into it. It was a big night for him. Who were you pulling for there, Schitt's Creek or Ted Lasso? I think maybe I know that they share a fan base, David, and I think a lot of people were satisfied with the outcome, like award Sudeikis and award Schitt's Creek. Were you the same?
I think that's the right way. The reason I wanted Schitt's Creek to be awarded is that it's done. Ted Lasso, I think, is just starting. I know they're renewed for season 2 and season 3, and I think it's going to keep getting better because that character, there's a lot you can do with the Ted Lasso character. There's a lot of directions that they can go, and I think they will. And Jason Sudeikis is brilliant. You know, I found an old Jason Sudeikis movie on Netflix. I reviewed it on Nothing Personal yesterday. It was crazy. Netflix somehow must know that my father died, and I said this on Nothing Personal. I don't know how they would, but every time I turn on Netflix now, they're showing me father-son movies. There's a movie called Kodachrome with Ed Harris and Jason Sudeikis and Elizabeth Olsen, and he was phenomenal. He has actually a bigger range than people give him credit for.
I'm happy for him. I'm curious to see what shape his character takes in season 2 of Ted Lasso. I think why people gravitated to that show so much is we were really, really searching for hope during that dark time, and that show gave so many people so much hope. But you don't want to become formulaic because I think that novelty will wear off. It'll be interesting to see if Sudeikis injects some of what's going on in his personal life. He already had in season 1. Maybe he was trying to tell us something, but maybe there's a little bit more darkness in store for Ted Lasso. Break the world down before we get that hope again.
I think you may be suffering from a little recency bias when you're talking about hope as being something we all want during the pandemic. I would say hope is something we all want always. If you look back even at Shawshank Redemption, the biggest speech, the most important speech in that is about hope and about having hope. I think that is the human condition, is that you have to have hope. That's what we talk about in baseball as the season is going to begin. We have hope right now that we can make it through the season. Or you're hoping for the Panthers that they can keep it going, or that the Heat can somehow repeat and get bubble magic back. I think hope is something that is not COVID related. And I think Ted Lasso, people said that it came at the right time. I think you said that too. And I think that sort of downplays how good it was. I think Ted Lasso would have been successful no matter when it had been released.
What'd you think of the movie? Obviously, you started, it's funny, just your growth in the way you consume entertainment. You swore off television, even when everyone was telling you, we're entering a golden age of television making. As The Sopranos was happening, I think you revealed you still haven't watched The Sopranos. As Breaking Bad was happening, you were one of the last holdouts, and now you realize how cinematic television can be. Number one, what was the show that brought about that sea change within you? And now, can you tell the difference between a movie and a miniseries? Because I thought Amy Poehler articulated it quite well. They're the same. They're on level playing fields now.
I think that the miniseries, the 6 hour, the 7 hour, the 8 hour, 8 episode, they're better than movies. It's like double header movies. And people used to complain. Do you remember the time when, oh my God, this movie is 2 hours and 45 minutes. We can't watch this. I can't sit down for 2 hours and 45 minutes. That has totally gone out the window. We got a cut. The director's cut of like a Francis Ford Coppola movie is 3 hours and 22 minutes. Holy Christ, get rid of it. Get it down. It's like when songs had to be 3 minutes and 5 seconds. And then, Stairway to Heaven comes and Bohemian Rhapsody comes and people are crazed. And then they realize, you know what? I guess people do have the patience. And again, it's not COVID related. I think people consume entertainment differently. It's easier for them to just lay in bed and watch on a device now. And you have the patience where you can get in and out of these series. Binging doesn't mean 8 hours in a row. There's more people now watching a 3 hour movie in 2 different sittings. And that's sort of a normal way to go. And that's also because there's no more theaters. You don't go to a theater and sit in an uncomfortable theater with people sneezing on you for 3 hours and 31 minutes. You sit in your house and you do it. The first TV show, I think, from start to finish may have been The West Wing that I watched, not live. I watched it on Netflix. And I realized that you can have brilliant acting, brilliant writing, and you can have movie star quality, quote unquote movie star quality. Do you remember in the Golden Globes when the TV people used to sit on the second level all the way in the back?
Yeah, way in the back. Now,
and they had to climb through everyone.
Now the actors nominated for Best Actor or Best Actress in a major motion picture have to decide which table they can sit at because they're nominated on the TV side as well.
I love watching the different tables and who sits where when it comes back next year, hopefully. But the line between TV and movies, you look at Nicole Kidman or Reese Witherspoon, you look at Mark Ruffalo. There's just a limitless number of quote unquote what used to be considered snobby movie actors.
There still is.
Who are now happy to do TV.
There still is. There are a couple of holdouts. They probably, maybe you can correct me because there might be some projects in development, but Tom Cruise, Tom Hanks, Leo DiCaprio, I just don't see them going to TV. But hell, Meryl Streep crossed over, and she would have been in that group with those three. But when Tom Cruise decides to do a television event, then I'll realize, okay, the last holdout is gone. There is no difference between projects.
Actors used to want to go on Broadway so they could sort of flex their acting chops. That's what they'd always say, that I do movies to pay my bills, and I go to Broadway to feed my acting beast. And I wonder whether people thought of TV that way in the past, where I'm a movie star, but I'm going to do a TV show, sort of like Robert De Niro taking one of his crappy comedies just to get paid, or Nicolas Cage, by the way, a great example. Just give me a movie. I want to get paid. I need the money. I think that Tom Cruise is an interesting example, and he's the first person I thought of. He's used to big budget, big special effects, long production time, sort of 2 hour movie type events. If there's a TV show that comes out, an Avengers type TV show that has the type of budget, I think Tom Cruise would cross over because he's got a production company and he needs revenue like everybody else. So it'll be interesting to watch, but I think there will be no holdouts over the next 5 years.
Are you worried about Tom Cruise? We haven't seen or heard from him publicly since that whole leaked audio of him freaking out on the set because people were breaking COVID protocol. And I actually think people were trying to get him with that. And there was a segment of the population that is like, we totally understand where Tom Cruise is coming from, but he's avoided the public eye since. I'm starting to get concerned.
Oh, I think that he had a little sort of switch. I think he went full Madonna. And everyone, when they walked on set every day, had to turn in their cell phones. The assumption is there's no one with a phone, no one with the ability to communicate. My guess is, given his sort of controlling nature, he had every single crew member sign an agreement that said that they would not release any video, they would not take video, they would not speak to the press. He had to shut that down after that got released. He's a huge take care of my image guy, ironically, given his sort of Scientology sort of makeup.
Well,
but I think
he may want to reevaluate. He may want to reevaluate because I don't think it's going great for him in the old PR department over the last 10 years, David.
Do you remember when he jumped on the couch crying his love for, was it Katie Holmes or Nicole Kidman or I don't know which wife?
That was really when, because big celebrities like that used to be so guarded, and now everybody has access to them if they ever venture out of their compounds, right? That was the first sort of insight, like, this guy's a little weird. And then we just find out more and more. And that documentary on Scientology, I forget the name of it, was done by HBO. That's one of the more effective documentaries. When you talk about documentaries that have instituted change, Super Size Me, and really the one in Scientology moved out of California as their hub. I think they've taken over Clearwater, Florida, and really are trying to make Central and South Florida their new central hub from it. And you're not hearing so much about Tom Cruise and his dealings with Scientology, because remember, you would do those shows and all these videos would leak out and you're like, what the hell is this? They've really tightened some of that stuff up.
I think they had to. I wonder whether the move from California was tax related or whether it's just that Florida, as Billy Corbin likes to say, because Florida, that's where everyone comes who wants to be, circus performers. And I love Florida, don't get me wrong, but Scientology, to me, the problem I always had with it is they didn't invite you to understand what they were doing. They insulted you if you didn't.
Did you try Scientology?
No, I barely eat salt and pepper, so no, I did not try Scientology.
All right, Going Clear is the name of that documentary, and I think that's a pretty good stable of two so far, documentaries that have brought about change. Do you have a nominee? In that, I imagine if we both put our minds to it, we can find a documentary that went about changing the world. We're seeing this with the Free Britney movement, and that documentary and how that's bringing about real change. Documentaries are very powerful tools in that way.
One of the first movies that I saw that was like a documentary, but it was based on a true story, and it really got me into movies, was back a long, long time ago called Silkwood with Meryl Streep and Cher. And it was a movie about a woman who was almost like a whistleblower in the nuclear world, working at a nuclear factory. And there was a moment where I got confused whether Meryl Streep was an actress or whether it was a documentary. And I started watching documentaries. And the reason they fascinate me is that it counts on the viewer to understand from which perspective the documentary is being made. So I draw your attention to Michael Moore and his documentaries, Bowling for Columbine, etc. Just amazing documentaries, but you have to understand he's got an agenda. Mm-hmm. And once you know the agendas of the documentary makers, then you can do your own research and you can learn so much about a topic. But there have been things that have, I think Chris just pointed out properly so when the documentary came out about the whales in SeaWorld.
Blackfish, yeah.
Blackfish, that was it for SeaWorld. Literally, there I go again. Sorry, Dan. That was the end of SeaWorld.
He just walked in and heard your verbal crutch. So that's unfortunate for you. Inconvenient truth as well. Documentaries can be a very powerful tool. Let's actually get back to the Golden Globes real quick, because the best picture drama, motion picture drama, Borat takes it on the comedy side, and I think it deserves the award recognition just because of how ambitious it is. And I really appreciated Sacha Baron Cohen's speech where he thanked the out of nowhere comedic star that was made by that movie, and of course he was talking about Rudy Giuliani. What did you make of the best picture drama category?
I love Nomadland. I found it to be disturbing. I found it to be interesting. I found myself wanting to feel badly for the characters in Nomadland, and then realizing that many of them chose that life. I found myself jealous of the life they chose in certain ways, knowing that I don't have the courage to choose that life ever, knowing that I wouldn't sleep in a van or go from place to place in an RV, knowing that I couldn't fix things the way Frances McDormand's character could. I had no idea that every actor in that movie, other than David Strathairn's son and Frances McDormand, I had no idea that everyone else was actually playing themselves. there were no actors in that movie except those three, and that absolutely fascinated me as well. What a country we have. What a world. So many characters. We live in such a bubble, right? Where we are focused on what we do and who we talk to, and it feels so uncomfortable to go outside of that because you're worried it will rock your foundation, right? It'll change how you act or how you look at the world. But boy, if you open your eyes and open your mind to possibilities of difference, ironically, given that we just talked about Scientology and how I'm not willing to do that, but there's so many areas where I am.
Where does Frances McDormand land for you in terms of greatest actors of their generation?
I wish people would go back and watch Mississippi Burning and Fargo, and she's a top 10 actress of my lifetime. There's no question about it. I would love to have known or to know her and Joel Coen, because Joel Coen is one of the great movie makers of my lifetime as well. And I would love to know how their life is. I assume it's as normal as mine, with fighting and silence and anxiety. But wouldn't it be interesting sort of to look inside how creative that household could be?
Stugotz here for our friends over at ZipRecruiter. Love telling you about them. Dan and I always tell you, please support the people that support this show. ZipRecruiter have been doing exactly that for many, many years now. We appreciate them. We love them. And listen, sports is using technology to take the fan experience to the next level. The NBA used more camera lenses and 5G bandwidth to put fans courtside. Snapchat let fans virtually walk the official NBA floor. Digital fans in the stands could watch the games virtually and pump the players up. When it comes to hiring for your business, there's one solution that's been advancing its technology for years, ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Dan. When you post a job on ZipRecruiter, it gets sent out to over 100 top job sites. Then ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology identifies people with the right skills and experience and invites them to apply to your job. It's a winning formula. No wonder 4 to 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. So if you want to step up your hiring game, give ZipRecruiter a shot. You've got nothing to lose. Why? Because right now, you get the chance to try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Dan. That's ZipRecruiter.com/DAN. What are you waiting for? Go to ZipRecruiter.com/Dan. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
For those people listening who don't know the specifics of Nomadland and how sad it was and how cold it was and the idea of living in a van, when you say, as the wealthy former president of the Marlins, I envy her for choosing that lifestyle, I think people would be surprised to hear that.
Well, I think that if people were honest with you, which they rarely are, there is a feeling of guilt, a feeling of privilege, a feeling of trying to understand different perspectives. As I'm putting together a house where you worry about Wi-Fi connectivity and TVs and making sure you've got enough storage space and you collect so much stuff, it reminds me of the George Carlin where my stuff is someone else's shit and someone else's stuff I would consider shit. And I was looking at my stuff, and recently I started thinking that my stuff is shit. And that was of great concern to me, and it happened after I watched Nomadland.
Or did it happen while you were moving and you realized you just have a lot of shit?
Both. I mean, listen, when you're unpacking boxes, right, you think to yourself, is this stuff that I need? Is this stuff that I want to live with? And also it has to do with the loss of a parent when you have to go through their stuff. And they think that you're going to want their stuff and you don't want any of their stuff because you have your own stuff. So what do you do with their stuff? It just gets boxed up or thrown away or given away. And then you fast forward to your own mortality, thinking about your kids going through your shit, knowing that they're going to get rid of it too. So what am I keeping my uniform that I wore during the Ironman? Why am I keeping that? But I've kept it for 15 years. It's just going to get thrown away, and I don't wear it anymore. It's very bizarre when you think about what I've been thinking about recently.
That's heavy.
Dark turn.
Yeah.
The Grief Eater wants to talk about happier things. This is too dark for even me. Clearing out your dad's stuff, I don't want to think about that.
Okay.
Let's talk about The Sound of Metal and cheer things up a little bit, because that wasn't at all depressing to watch. Sound of Metal was a fascinating viewing for me.
He just created for the audience the image of me burying my dad. Nobody wants that.
I actually didn't talk about burying him. I talked about throwing out his shit.
Which you can only do over literally his dead body. That's how you use literally.
Actually, you don't have to do it that way. I just watched last night, very late, the new movie with Rosamund Pike, who won Best Comedic Actress for a movie called I Care a Lot. And that's pretty much what it's about. It's about getting rid of someone's shit before you bury them. Spoiler alert, that's the movie.
Let's get into Sound of Metal. I love the supporting actor in it. Is it Paul Raci? I forget. I'm sorry. Apologies to him because he kind of burst out of nowhere too. And I researched his story a little bit, and you could see how he got the role in this film. The supporting actor in this film, he grew up in a deaf household, and that's how he knew sign language. And he's also part of a Black Sabbath cover band. So he was just a perfect casting for this film. I love the performances in this movie. I think it used sound in a way that I hadn't really experienced in a film before. It did stay with me. It was a great recommendation by Dan. Have you seen it, David?
Yeah, it's my top movie of the year. Riz Ahmed should win Best Actor. What bothered me is that, and I want to make sure I say it right, Chadwick Boseman, I'm very sad that he is no longer with us. It is tragic. But his performance in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom was simply not the best performance of the year. So if we're giving him the award because we want to honor his life, then how about a Lifetime Achievement Award? But Riz Ahmed, it's going to cost him an Oscar. It cost him a Golden Globe. He was far better in Sound of Metal than Chadwick was in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
So when you read some of the things that people are saying about Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, because I do believe there was an emotional attachment to Chadwick Boseman. There was no way. You even said it before, even needing to see all of the movies. You're like, there's no way anyone's going to beat him. But then when you hear the stories, the emotional stories from Spike Lee and others talking about the prayer circles and hands on him when he was doing stuff during the movie but didn't want anyone to know that he was sick, and then Spike Lee running him specifically through arduous tasks because he's an athlete without knowing that he was sick. There's nothing, you can't win awards against the dead, David. It's really hard.
I'm aware, and I understand, but it would be great. I just feel for Riz. I really do.
Yeah, it was great. The movie crawls into your skin. The movie is uncomfortably deep and deeply uncomfortable. Like, I don't know how long that stayed with you, but when it was done, I mean, it's a small thing that a lot of movies can end up doing where you get a moment of perspective where you're like, oh, wow, I take a lot of shit for granted. There's a lot of stuff that my life could change pretty immediately, pretty quickly, in a way that wouldn't even be an accident, would just sort of be happenstance. Like, wouldn't be a getting into an intersection, and we all understand that a helicopter can crash or you can get into a car accident. But I don't feel like any of us spend much time in our entire lives thinking, what would happen if I lost my hearing right now?
So I'm not experiencing that, but I'm experiencing something else. I got sick yesterday because I ate bad potato salad and I couldn't smell it. And so I didn't realize it was bad. And it's the only explanation I can have for why I got sick, because I don't normally get sick that way, that fully. And I've lost my smell, and it's not come back in over a month. And believe me, it's not sight, it's not hearing, but it is something that is an interesting adjustment. But there's little things. It didn't even occur to me that the potato salad could be bad. It would be like I was thinking about Tom Cruise in Minority Report when he had his eyes done and he went to the fridge and grabbed the moldy milk and the moldy sandwich and didn't know it, but he had his taste but didn't know it till it was too late. There's no way to know if the milk is good. I can only look at the date. The potato salad didn't have a date, so I thought it was fine, and it had been too old.
What's going on with your sense of smell? Are doctors telling you that it's coming back? Are you worried about this?
I can't hear you very well. Did you just say, am I worried about it not coming back?
Yes.
I don't know if he's doing that on
Of course
purpose
I am.
I thought he was doing a joke
that's not a really
hear.
big problem at all, to say the least, because eventually it'll come back, I hope, and I've been adjusting to it.
It's different for everybody, David. What was really interesting about Sound of Metal was not just how they conveyed someone losing their hearing and then, without giving stuff away, how people try to augment that and offset losing their hearing, but the notion that what is an improvement or normal for other people, or even perceived as a handicap by some people, may not exactly be that way for a certain community. And I didn't really know that. I thought people would always grab at a solution to their problems, but this, I think it throws a big wide net over sometimes the solution just causes more problems, and I really enjoyed viewing the film through that prism.
I think it should be nominated for sound design and sound effects, but you should go back and watch a bunch of movies like that. You know, Children of a Lesser God is a great movie that is worth watching. There's a foundation I work with called Challenged Athletes Foundation for people who've lost limbs. And it is very interesting. They're athletes, they've lost limbs, and we provide them with grants to get limbs so they can, again, participate in athletic activities. It's called Challenged Athletes Foundation. People go through a process when they lose a limb. They don't lean into it at first. They say, that's it, I can't do anything. They go into depression. I can't ever run a marathon. I can't ever play basketball again. I can't ever do anything. And then what happens is you realize that there are ways that you can adjust, and it just takes time. You've got to get through it. And that is something that most people, when they get adversity, they just stop instead of trying to lean into the adversity and changing their way of acting or way of being or expectations. And what Sound of Metal was very interesting to me is he didn't lean into it because he wanted the cochlear implant surgery. That was critical for him. He didn't lean into it. But then over the course of the movie, he started to realize what his life could be.
What did you think of I Care a Lot? You mentioned it. I thought it was it Gone Girl? Or
Yeah, Rosamund Pike, right?
Yes.
What did you think of that? I thought it was well done. I thought it was creepy. I thought it was artful, fun, easy to watch. I thought Dinklage was really good in it.
I thought that after watching the Britney Spears movie, and this is really about conservatorships, it's about fraud, and it made me actually sad because there are so many people out there. My dad was in the nursing home business. There are so many people out there, and he wasn't one of them, who take advantage of the weak, who take advantage of the old, the insurance fraud that goes on. This is not made up, what I Care a Lot. This is real. The court system is a very scary place for both the underprivileged and for the old and the elderly who don't have people to protect them. And there are plenty of organizations that try, but it's hard to catch everybody in that net. I found the movie very sort of uncomfortable to watch. The end was very surprising, which I'm not going to spoil. Peter Dinklage plays a character, and it made me smile. He played he didn't play a small person. He played a character, a great character. And I'm really overtaken that the fact that movie got made, and my guess is it's based on a real story.
You pounded the table last year for our audience to give foreign language films a chance. Parasite obviously was a big moment for foreign language films in this country. They're getting a little bit more exposure. What's your favorite foreign language film this year?
Well, I hope you've seen Minari.
Not yet, because it's 1999, David.
So what happens when you go with your wife to the movies?
Well, now I like those high-end. I've only been to the movies once since things have started opening up, and that's been available to me. And I went to go see Tenet because it was very important to Christopher Nolan that I see this in the movie theater. And thankfully, I was the only person there. And I spend about like $150 now whenever I go to the movies because I need to have a bottle of wine and a whole meal. I like those boutique luxury cinematic experiences.
I would like you to think of things differently, please, because everyone is scared off by the $19.99 price tag because they're used to getting it free on streaming where you pay $6.99 a month or $8.99 a month. I'd encourage all of the listeners here to write down all of their streaming services and what they're paying per month.
Oh, we can wait. You can wait for any $19.99 movie. It'll be $3.99 soon enough.
I'm still waiting for Bill and Ted, though. I've been holding out for a year at this point.
Because by waiting, it's like stealing music. It's like not watching the credits to a movie. Are you the guy who leaves a movie right after it ends and doesn't wait for the credits?
Sometimes I do, yes. Often I do. Every time I do.
I do that all the time, unless it's like a Marvel movie and I've been told, wait till the end.
Whittingham, put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Do you sit through the credits at the movies?
People deserve to have their names read by you because they work their ass off to entertain you. And I will sit through the very last credit of every single movie I watch because I want to give homage. I want to pay homage to people who give me so much pleasure.
David, that is very nice. That is nice of you, and it is an ideal utopian standard. I will just tell you that I started my professional career with something that was called a byline so that people would know who it was by. And what I'm telling you is that I don't expect anybody, if I make anything right now, to stick around and see if it was made by me. I'm good just making it.
Okay.
I mean, it's easy for him to say when the name of the show is the Dan Levitard
That
Show
is-
with
that's
Stugotz.
right. How's your soapbox? Is it melting?
I am Shaquille O'Neal arguing with Candace Parker. All you got to do is throw it to the big man down in the paint and get your easy two.
I don't know what you are, except disingenuous, because the reason you do what you do is that you want people to read the byline. You need people to know. Why would you just say, when you said put it on the poll at Levitard, we know where to put it on the poll. We know exactly what poll it is, but you had to mention your name.
He's got a network called Levitard and Friends, and he's like, I don't care if my name's on it or not.
It was supposed to be Laugh. It was supposed to be just LAF by itself, but the domain name got stolen.
Get out of here.
Because we didn't register it correctly.
Get out of
Is
here.
that your story that you're going to stick with?
That is my story. That is correct.
Okay, stick with that. I think you're really going to go far with that.
So
Why don't you lean into the fact that you feed your ego by seeing your name and wanting people to know that you are the captain of this pirate ship that you claim is disorganized, has no water, has no working refrigerator, no one's getting paid, no security. I just think you got to lean into that fact.
The fridge is broken, dude. The fridge is broken.
Get a new fridge.
I've been trying to get a printer for 5 months.
We got one, and we got to replace the ink.
Do you know what Amazon is?
I loved when Mike Ryan said a couple of questions ago. Mike says sometimes the solution when you arrive at it causes more problems, and I'm looking at him like, don't I know it? Like, we're sitting right in the middle
What
of
have
it.
we done?
I used to have a fridge that worked all the time.
Or at least I knew where to complain.
I knew who
now
to
I have
tell.
to complain to Dan.
I knew who I had to say, hey, I'm Dan Levitard. I get the credit around here. Somebody fix the fridge.
Doesn't work when
Careful
it's
what you wish for, Danny boy.
David, really enjoyed our time with you this week. Do you have a review for us?
Well, we've talked about 10 movies, but I would like to. I can't believe you guys didn't bring up the story from last week. You had no follow-up. This is what's funny about you guys.
I don't want to talk
is
sports.
that you have the appearance of professionalism where Dan will say last week, hey, write that down. We got to get back to that next week. And either A, it doesn't get written down, B, it doesn't get remembered, except I'm the one who thinks about it all week and is ready to talk about it.
Let's go. Give it to us.
Well,
I don't even remember
and to
what
make
you're
it
talking
look
about.
as unprepared as possible, because as you know, looking unprepared takes a tremendous amount of preparation. Right. But then you totally lose the train of thought.
No, I apologize. You're talking, of course, about how we teased last week the time, the closest you ever came to quitting your job with the Marlins. Unfortunately, we've run out of time.
But okay.
No, we absolutely teased that. But
we were going to talk about agents.
Okay.
We were going to talk about Lozano.
Oh, yeah.
And then you were going to follow up on Pujols. Other than that, you got it exactly
All
right.
right, should we
These are
do
all
that
great
now?
topics.
How long are we into this? All great topics. You want go ahead and rat-a-tat-tat through them and pretend that we're asking questions.
I'm going to rat-a-tat through this. I'm going to tell you I got to go tape Nothing Personal. It's been a slice of heaven. The movie I want to review is called The Meyerowitz Stories. I'm not giving you this content.
Right.
If you can't even remember what the hell we're supposed to talk about.
I want the Lozano content specifically because the thing we were talking about last week is we all know how you feel about Scott Boras. Who's the second worst agent you've encountered? The reason that we were interested in this because we were talking about Pujols and his agent Dan Lozano, and we know you don't like Scott Boras, so I was asking you who's the second worst agent you've encountered. Was it Lozano or was it someone else?
Yeah, no, when you say worst, keep in mind that Scott Boras is not a bad agent because he keeps getting good players and keeps getting paid. So I'm talking about the way I have had to deal with them and things that come up. That sort of makes them smart. When agents don't want to deal with me, that makes them smart. The Levinson brothers are a great example of another group who will get their players signed and ignore me completely because they know they can get the owner to say yes. Do you remember a player for the Marlins? You may not. His name was Dustin McGowan.
Yeah, I remember the name.
Tattoos, right?
No, that's Justin Miller.
Oh, my bad.
Justin Miller is the guy who had to wear the sleeve.
Pitchers.
That's the Justin Miller tattoo rule.
Yeah, Blue Jays pitchers, man. I get them mixed up all the time.
So Dustin McGowan paid for the Marlins, and we were done with him. He was sort of $1 million player, and we were going to move on. He was getting older and great guy, but we were done. So the season ends, and we get a call from the Levinsons saying, hey, we haven't gotten the Dustin McGowan contract yet. And we said, what are you talking about? We'll get back to you, but I don't think there's a spot for him. And they said, no, we already have a deal with you. And we said, what are you talking? Of course you don't have a deal with us. I'm sitting there with Mike Hill and Dan Jennings. There's no deal. And he said, no, we did the deal with Jeffrey. And I said, well, what could you possibly be talking about? He said, well, Jeffrey said you're bringing McGowan back on a major league deal, no less, for like $1.1 million or $1.2 million. And I said, no, there's definitely no roster spot for him and definitely no guarantee. We'll be back to you. Call up Jeffrey and say, Jeffrey, we got the strangest call from the Levinsons. Have you spoken to them recently? And he said, no. I said, well, wait a minute. They're a bunch of liars. They're saying that you cut a deal with Dustin McGowan. We ended up having Dustin McGowan on a major league deal at $1.2 million.
What's the closest you ever came to quitting?
When Larry Beinfest got fired, I actually walked into Jeffrey. I said I was done. When he wouldn't fire Mike Berger, I told Jeffrey it's either me or Mike Berger. If you want Mike to stay with the team, he was an assistant for Jeffrey. I said, if you want him to stay, then I'm resigning right now. Those are the two times. I was not very mature. We ended up firing Mike Berger. I flew to Pittsburgh to fire him in person because I don't believe in firing over the phone if possible. And it's something that came between me and Jeffrey for years. And he ended up hiring Mike Berger back. Years and years later, he came back to the Marlins. The thing that happened with Larry Beinfest is Jeffrey just had enough. He wanted a different voice. He wanted, Dan Jennings involved. And it was just, I didn't agree with that decision at the time. And I told him that. And I walked in, I said, I don't think that I should be working here anymore. The third time is with you, Le Batard, when the gauntlet was thrown down, that if I continue the show, that he's going to let go. I said, I want to do the show. I may just resign. And he said, you can resign all you want. And he said, how much does Le Batard pay you? I said, that's a good question, as a matter of fact. He pays me nothing. He pays me in compliments, not. And so that was my last appearance on your show for a couple of years until I missed you so badly, Dan, so badly. I had to come home.
We've covered some of the Beinfest stuff and how that's still awkward for you. I've never heard Mike Berger's name so much as a story. And he came back to the organization after you threw down the gauntlet and seemingly won this particular issue. Were you in a different place when he came back that you were fine with it, or it still bothered you?
There are certain things that your owner wants that you just, it's like you with Dan, right? There's certain times you can't coach him. There's certain times you have to give him a yes once in a while. If you just say no every time, you're going to end up losing your job.
He just says no all the time. He says no all the time.
Actually, there's a great example in this Zoom of me saying no constantly, and it ended up being a yes for Dan.
Well, it was edited out, though.
No, it's the face of David Samson.
It's this face?
Mm-hmm. I've had to fight for you at every turn.
When you're the president of a team.
I have had to fight for you at every turn because of how uncomfortable the alliance is.
Yeah, that's Dan. One of Dan's signature wins right there.
It is. That's true.
And I've turned it into a win for myself. So Dan was right about it. Because,
by the way,
man,
Mike, before you take credit for saying yes to Dan, the only reason why you changed your mind is when you had to have content during COVID, and you realized that I would go on with you once a week for an hour.
You were great. You were great. I've seen the light. I'm like Hugh Jackman in The Fountain. I'm just that GIF that's just bathed in light. Thank you so much, David Samson, and thank you, Dan, for twisting my arm and making it happen.
What are the Berger stories? What were the issues with Berger? And specifically, when you raise your hand and say, I was immature, you don't think that's the way you should have handled that?
I think that I needed to know that there were certain people in the organization who were untouchable, and I should have understood that better. But I had won a lot of power struggles over what had been untouchable people, including Jeff Torborg, who was untouchable until he wasn't. Including, certain players who we had to have or certain things that had to have happen. But the thing with Mike Berger, and he's a good guy. He's a lifetime baseball guy. He knew Jeffrey all the way back from his Oklahoma City days, and Jeffrey depended on him. And I felt as though that Mike was able to step over everybody's head because he had a direct line to the owner, but the owner enabled that. The owner, when he would call him up in the middle of the night and say, what do you think of this guy or this guy or this guy? And Mike would say, yeah, I think he'd be a good acquisition. And then he'd call me and Larry and say, get the guy. But Mike wouldn't focus on the money. He wouldn't focus on the practical side of running a team. When you've got to run a team, it's a whole lot different than when you're a special assistant or when you're just giving advice to an owner. When you actually have to balance the budget, when you have to negotiate with the agents, when you have to make a trade in the real world and not in the fantasy world, there can be issues. And Mike and I ended up getting along fine when I realized that at some point it is what it is, and I leaned into it. And we had good memories and good times, but it's a very big difference when you've got reporting responsibility versus when you are a dotted line to the owner.
Play some off the cuff. Don't think about it too much here. Just top 3 untouchables. When you think of your entire career and people that you associate with being untouchable in the organization at a certain time, what are the 3 names that come quickest to your mind?
Pudge Rodriguez was going to be signed no matter what in 03. Ichiro was going to be signed no matter what. And Jared Saltalamacchia was going to be signed no matter what.
Were you against the Ichiro signing? You become good friends.
I was against the signing because I felt as though that his demands were too large, that his role was too small, and that he would not lean into being a 4th outfielder. And I only changed my mind after talking to him and meeting him for the first time. And then it was only because I had to, because I've told you that how that meeting went. It was totally ridiculous. And for those who are new to the show, we did a conference call to Japan with his translator. And the big question we asked of Ichiro is, are you willing to be a 4th outfielder? And his answer went on for 2 minutes. And in Japanese, and the translator said yes. And I was furious. I said, he has to have said more than that. This is the critical part here. Please ask him that question again. So they asked him the question again in Japanese. He answered it for another 2 minutes, and the answer again was, yes, he is.
No, that couldn't have been the conversation.
That's exactly how it went.
That can't be the way that it went. And so he was right, and everyone won when he got his 3,000th hit, inexplicably, in Colorado.
It was tremendous. I flew to Colorado for that. That's how close Ichiro and I had become, that I flew to Colorado, and he said before that game that this is the game, and he wanted to make it a home run, and he missed it by literally 8 inches.
Wow.
And ended up getting a triple for his 3,000th hit, and all the teams celebrated. It's one of the great memories of that season, which turned out to be a horrible season and a horrible memory. But that was, what a signing. What a great signing.
What do you imagine, because of Ichiro's bat control and sort of his zen perfection about baseball, if Ichiro played in the modern age and didn't have to be a slap hitter and was changed into, hey, Ichiro, you have to hit home runs, how many home runs a season do you think Ichiro would have hit?
I talked to him about this. He thought he'd be a 30 to 40 home run hitting guy. In batting practice, he would just laugh at the cage, and he would say, all right, home run. And he'd hit them so far, because he's slight, unbelievably strong, but slight. He did what thought was necessary to win games, to get on base, to hit the gaps, to get over 200 hits a year, to get over 4,000 hits. But don't kid yourself. Ichiro had unbelievable power.
Well, Dave gave insight in that you don't like being called Dave. I'm sorry, Mr. Samson.
I don't like being called that either.
Yeah, David gave insight to the fact that we actually don't really talk these things out before, and it's all off the cuff. You stopped us from getting your review because you were a great producer and you did a recall to last week. But now I'm going to take the lessons from that and ask you, David Samson, I'm going to pin you down on this. Give us your review for the week.
I want to talk about Minari. And the reason I want to talk about it is I want people, I'm going to cry out again to your audience, to not be afraid of subtitles. It's about a Korean family who moves to Arkansas to become farmers. It's got Will Patton in it, who plays a God-fearing, Jesus Christ-loving assistant farmer. And he is, I don't know what happened to him from No Way Out to now when he was in this movie, where he's just gotten older and his characters have changed. But the performance by the Korean actors in Korean with subtitles were some of the best performances of the year. It's almost as good as Parasite. And it's another movie when you pair it with Nomadland and think about the world out there, the world of farming and people trying to make it, searching for the American dream, thinking they can do better for themselves, and the sacrifices they have to make to get it. It's something I've never had to sacrifice. I've never had to do. I can't appreciate it, so I try to take in all the content so I can pretend that I can be empathetic and sympathetic. I can pretend that I can understand what shoes they are walking in, but it doesn't work. It's incremental progress at best. But it is a movie that will make you think. It'll a movie that will make you feel lucky, and it's a movie that will make you realize that other people in that position also can and do feel lucky.
Have you explored at all with some introspection why it is you may have at times in your life, or still have at times in your life, difficulty with finding where empathy resides?
I think a lot of it has to do with baseball because of the armor I built over 18 years in public, and it's impacted my life in every way, where I don't show emotion. I'm very robotic. And so what I do is I crave connection. I crave feeling. I crave the ability to try to shed the armor, but then once it gets pricked on, all of a sudden it grows back, and it grows back even harder. And what I use movies for is to try to help me feel. It's like teaching my nose to smell again by smelling spices every day, which I do, and it doesn't work very well. But I'm hoping over time, as I get years out of baseball, that I will sort of get rid of my robotic nature. But it impacted me everywhere, Dan. It impacted me, you know this, personally tremendously. The toll that it's taken on my family is incalculable because of the way I was in baseball, because of the way I thought I had to be.
Worth it?
I'm not prepared to answer that.
Do you think that watching movies in terms of being something that makes you feel, where do you feel on the learning curve? Like someone learns to read, 4th grade, 3rd grade, 2nd grade. Where do you feel academically you would be in terms of movies teaching you how to feel? Where are you as a feeler in terms of education level because of the movies specifically?
I'm prepubescent. I can see something happening. Every once in a while, I get a zit, and every once in a while, I get a tingling feeling, but I don't exactly know what it is. I don't know why it's happening, and I don't know how to get it back.
That's a feeling. I've had a feeling. There's a sting in my eye. Why is it there? Get back. Get out of there. You've ruined my life.
David, we thank you for joining us this week. Make sure to check out his podcast, Nothing Personal with David Samson. Does this out of the kindness of his heart and
the credit. And he gets his name in the credits. That's all he cares about.
We're going to wrap this show up. David, make sure to stay past the credits.
Thank you. Be good, guys. Have a good rest of the day.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.
Okay, this is very exciting. Everyone is in place. We've got the Hammer, Tyler Holzhammer from Sports Card Investor. He is here, and he is legitimate. He is someone who authenticates. He is someone who grades. Greg Cote has emerged from his dirty garage, his impossibly dirty garage. No matter how valuable the things are in there, you do not want to go in there. You will get a venereal disease simply by thinking about the garage. Greg Cote, tell us here, and thank you, Tyler, the Hammer. I will refer to you as the Hammer from now on. Greg Cote, explain to us what you've been doing to get us to this moment. I saw a pool table with a whole lot of cards on it. We have identified 20 that we believe have value. How did you determine that? Take us through the process. This is very exciting. I also want to know generally how you're feeling and what your expectations are.
I'm feeling excited. I've never done anything like this. These were hundreds and hundreds of cards that had been in shoe boxes in a plastic storage tub in my garage for decades. I mean, literally, these cards are mostly from the 1960s. So I went through all my cards. I would say they were 60% baseball cards, 30% football cards, and 10% miscellaneous, such as James Bond cards and, old Munster show cards and stuff like that. And I categorized them alphabetically. I put I had a big 5-inch stack of all my M cards, Dick McAuliffe and Sam McDowell and all that stuff. And I went through them and I picked out what I thought were the most valuable cards, just based on who were the Hall of Famers, who were the greatest players. And then we sort of winnowed from there. And the Hammer got involved and we fine-tuned it into what actually is perhaps a valuable collection.
Okay, so this is what I want to do with the Hammer, because this happened the other day in real time where we were just sort of watching what was happening, and Greg Cote said, this is a football card, it's not worth anything, and it was Y.A. Tittle. Among what he just said, Hammer, the Munsters, everything else, does any of that other crap have any real value if it's in pristine condition?
Some of it does, depending, like you said, nowadays condition is just as important, is very, very important. So, and you'd be surprised, some of the non-sports, like he mentioned, there is some value, especially if it is in pristine condition. So, but for the most part, and in terms of the sports players, you're mostly looking for the Hall of Famers, the All-Stars. And within those categories, you're wanting to make sure that they're in great to excellent to pristine condition.
That Dick McCullough do anything for you?
I would say no.
That sounds a lot like Barry McCockiner. So tell me, what kind of condition do you think Greg's cards are in from what it is that you've seen, Hammer?
So from what I've seen, it does vary. I have seen some that have drawings on them. I do see some that have creases, but I also do see others that are in very good condition, that have very sharp corners. The centering looks very good. So I would say it's a variety of ranges and in terms of what he has. And for the most part, that's what you'll see when you walk into a garage like Greg's, or a situation where you go into a flea market and see just a bunch of cards that have been sitting there for a long time, especially if they're not necessarily, in sleeves or top loaders, to be made sure that they're taken care of.
Hey, Hammer, it's Billy. What devalues a card more, a crease or a drawing?
That can be subjective, but I would probably say the drawing would be. Most people, if they really, really want a rare card, they'll be okay with it having a bit of a crease. But, if somebody's playing tic-tac-toe or, doing the scorebook on a card, that's something that somebody would not necessarily want to have.
Could a drawing ever increase the value of a card?
I would say no. Now, there are cards that come out nowadays where artists draw them, but that is specific to the manufacturer and to that particular set. So for the cards that Greg has, I would say no, it does not add any more value. It actually would devalue the cards.
When we discovered that Greg Cote might have a treasure trove in his garage, Stugotz, the snake that he is, immediately emerged and offered, sight unseen, $500. Based on what I've told you, the Hammer, and what you have seen, the Hammer, can you tell us what you would pay without getting into any of the specifics of any of the cards? We're going to surprise you with those in a second. But if I simply gave you partial information and said, Greg Cote has this in his garage and you can see that the condition is pretty good on hundreds of cards, and take your chances on cards from the 60s or 70s, what's the bet you would make, sort of sight unseen, if you could, on how much you would pay for those cards just to take all those boxes before you even know what's in them?
I would say about $1,500 would be the right amount that I would come in and decide to take it all without necessarily sifting or going through them, just kind of seeing the collection from a bird's eye view.
Do you often get that sort of offer where do you realize you've got a sucker on your hands because someone's like, I don't know what these are worth, can you just come and take them off my hand? And they get all starry-eyed because you're offering $1,500 and you secretly know they're worth $100,000.
Yes, that happens a lot. What you see in this hobby is, over time, people necessarily don't want to go through all of the work of having to individually post every single card to eBay or to try to sell them on a marketplace or something like that. So what you see is individuals will just say, I have this whole lot, take it for this much, Sometimes people will even give a card, $1 per card, depending on how big the collection is. So it's definitely something that happens a lot, and I've seen many people be able to profit off of others that necessarily don't want to go through that work by sifting through all of the cards, where there might be some Manals or something like that, but then you also might see some Dean Chances, So like that would be something where, people don't necessarily want you to go sifting through them. They'd rather just take the whole lot and, they can take the money and be on their way.
I need to explain to you, Hammer, what we're dealing with here, because Greg Cote has done the work. And if you know how lazy Greg Cote generally is, he's had trouble sleeping because of how much he likes money the last couple of days, because he's dreaming about cashing in here. Oh, Greg Cote, you're objecting to that? I've never seen you work so hard. I keep getting photos of you busy organizing cards, middle of the night organizing cards. You're going to pretend like you haven't been dreaming about cashing in right now?
Well, it's been a labor of love. It hasn't been a monetary thing. Quite frankly, an attorney I don't know has already offered me $10,000 for the collection. And here's what amazed me. Okay, I'm not at all surprised that a well-kept Hank Aaron card might be worth a good deal of money. What did surprise me, because I've gone online and checked out some of the values, and according to what I've learned, even, and the Hammer might acknowledge this, even players I've never heard of, guys who never made an all-star team, sometimes those cards are worth, $3, $5. It amazed me, because I assumed that 90% of these cards were literally worthless, but that's not the case. So when you have hundreds and hundreds of these cards, even if the base card is worth an average of $2, that adds up.
Well, I would guess that everything that you have that's in good conditions from the 60s and 70s, including that Gerald Ford sign that we pulled out of your garage. Hammer, do you have any idea what that might be worth? A pristine Gerald Ford sign from the 1970s.
That I do not know off the top of my head, but I would guess that it's probably not as much as some of the baseball cards that you have in that collection.
All right, so
now there could be a Gerald Ford enthusiast that might overpay, but I would say for the most part the baseball cards and the football cards would have more value than necessarily the Gerald Ford sign.
What about Beanie Babies?
All right, let's start with Greg Cote here. You very excited? How are we doing this, Greg? Are you just going to hold up a card? Is Chris going to hold up the card? Because we're all on Zoom. We're being responsible. We've got a lot of questions for Stugotz on how it is that he arrived at the vaccine, because he's not supposed to be one of the people who gets the vaccine this early. But, of course, some scam, I'm sure, that involves our toppling our government is in play. Chris, are you going to show the cards to us? How do we get started here?
Yes, I'm going to show the cards. And you guys want to start football or baseball?
Can you start by turning on your microphone?
I mean, I thought there would be double an echo if I turned on my microphone.
No, what happens is your dad picks up your voice. So let's go ahead and leave your microphone on.
I'm ready to go, Dan. You want to start football? I think we start football, right? Because I think it's Hammer. Does football have, just overall less value than baseball cards, correct?
From a vintage standpoint and the years within that collection, baseball is definitely something that's more something that people would want compared to football, because there's just baseball has been something that collectors, cards, baseball is the first big sport where cards really exploded. So a lot of the vintage stuff you're going to see baseball brings a demand.
Hammer, when you see Chris and Greg kind of handling the cards, stacking them, does that do anything inside of you? Like, do you see it and whoa, stop touching the card that way. Don't take care of it that way. You're ruining the value.
Yes, sometimes I do, especially when they're letting the card kind of slide over the one that's under it, because then sometimes that can cause some surface damage to the card. But I would even say I would gasp if seeing his cards in the garage like that, just in a shoebox with no, that definitely does not make me feel good inside. Seeing that just random cards are thrown into a cardboard box with no protection around it.
Without further ado, then, we're about to get this started, but Stugotz, this is a bit weird, okay, because we've been going straight through, and Stugotz basically seems to have gone to the corner of his driveway to get a shot and has now returned in time for the Hammer. And before we get to the value of these cards, Stugotz, we need an honest answer from you, no matter how slippery you are on these things, on how the hell did you cut all the lines for the vaccine? Who do you know? What did you do? You're not one of the qualified applicants. How did you manage? We're assuming some sort of fraud here. We need honest answers for how it is that you just got the vaccine quickly while we were taping.
The location was very close to my house, Dan. I had a pre-existing condition. My doctor wrote me a note. The pre-existing condition was heaters.
I think the pre-existing condition is Stugotz didn't want to wait for the vaccine. Let's get started here, Chris, and he's got a doctor embedded with him in fraud. Lord.
I got to tell you, I feel like a new man. I mean, I got a big V on my chest. I got the vaccination.
Worldofsuey.com. Get on it, Cortez. Go V shirts. Let's start printing those. Chris, what do you have there? Let's show the first card here. We were very excited the other day when we saw Y.A. Tittle and Johnny Unitas. So what is it that you have here, Chris?
All right, we're going to start with Johnny Unitas. All right, it's a 1969 Topps, and it's number 25. Hammer, are you familiar with this card? What can you tell us about this
That's in good condition. That card looks good.
And he has two, by the way. We have two of these bad boys.
Wow, 2 Johnny U's. I mean,
Corner looks a little dinged up there, Hammer.
yeah.
Yes, we got Hammer.
Hammer, give us a verdict. Get the fanfare ready. Let's get all of our production elements in play so we can fire them off. Hammer, what is that card worth in the condition that you see it in on the Zoom?
That card is worth $20 in that condition.
Wow.
But there's two of them. That's a 40,
so
Greg.
$40.
I thought you guys would be better. I mean,
All right, so very good.
Right, good
All right,
start.
my offer of $500 starting to sound pretty good right now, Greg.
Not really.
Not at all.
Not really. Chris, let's see what else. Let's put up another card. Are you going football here again? Yes, you're going football.
Yeah, I got a few footballs, so let's just get these out of the way. O.J. Simpson rookie card, tops, 1970.
Wow.
So yes, that O.J. Simpson rookie, which at one time was a big card in the hobby, you can find that in that condition for about $75 right now.
We write this down.
Really? I don't think 75.
We need to establish rules.
We need to establish rules.
Is it over 100? It gets a fanfare.
Well, wait a minute. Let's do it this way, Greg. Your real expectations for your highest valued card is what? Like, we'll be exceeding your expectations if the highest value of any one of these cards is what?
Over 1,000.
Okay. I think we should go card by card. I want to hear what Greg thinks the card is worth and then have the Hammer tell us what the card
That's a
is
great
actually
idea.
worth.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Good idea.
This is a good one because my dad thinks this is worth something. It's a Brian Piccolo card.
All right.
And there's a park in South Florida called Brian Piccolo Park, and I'm pretty sure that's why my dad thinks it's worth something.
No,
that's why he's famous.
Because of the movie Brian's song. And Hammer, tell me if I'm correct. Some of these cards are worth more not because of how great the person was on the field, but the extracurricular stuff. For example, I have a Jim Bouton card. He was not a great pitcher, but he's associated with the book Ball 4 and so forth. So I suspect that would be overvalued slightly, based on that notoriety.
No, that would increase the price even more than that famous double murder.
Was it a double murder with Bouton or was it Swinger? Was it Swinger? It was one of those. I can't remember.
Sorry about the Juices lose.
My bad. I thought Jim Bouton might have been a murderer that I didn't know about. Roy, you wanted to Roy, you wanted to ask something in the middle of that.
You should apologize.
I really should.
Yeah, I was going to ask if that O.J. Simpson card was devalued over the past 25 years, but I'm guessing yes, it was probably.
Because of the murder?
What's the fine for making someone a murderer? I mean, seriously.
That's a good question.
What's the fine for forgetting O.J. Simpson was one?
Oh, it's because of the robbery in Vegas.
I just love that I also hit Jim Bouton with Swinger, and I'm not sure that's true either.
Wow, what a life.
So this is, we need a new fine system for Mike, because I didn't make him a murderer. I objected to Mike making him a murderer.
We digress. Greg, how much do you think that Piccolo card is worth?
I would guess $10 maybe. I don't know.
All right, let's see what we have here. Hammer says that card is worth
$40.
Wow.
All right, we're confused with the sounds.
Wow.
$40. So this didn't work the way it was supposed to. Chris, you said Greg would think it was worth a lot. He underestimated what the card was worth by $30. What else do you have there?
All right. I mean, we have a couple more football. You guys feeling good about football? Should we keep going? All right,
Yeah.
Joe
Yeah.
Namath.
Joe Namath. What kind of card is that?
This is a Topps 65. I got to look up the year real fast.
That might be his rookie year. I'm not sure. Broadway.
I
Jeff.
believe that's 66.
Look at you, Hammer.
Okay, well, if it's 66, it's going to be worth less. Let's see what we have here. Greg, what do you think that card is worth?
I don't know, $50?
It's 68, by the way. This is 68.
Well, Greg, you were correct. $50 is what it's currently worth.
Okay.
Yes. Greg.
I mean, that's a wild guess on my part.
Greg, how do you feel this is going so far? Do you feel pretty good about where we're trending? If everything in there is worth $40 and $50, you got a lot of them, so you're looking pretty good there.
Yeah, no, I'm pleased. I would be pleased no matter what. I've got a Bo Belinsky card, which I suspect is worth more than it should be because I believe he dated Marilyn Monroe. But I'd have to research that a little bit.
Well,
does
that help us understand or quantify, please, if you would, Hammer, the stories? What is a story involving a card? What are you laughing about, Mike?
Bo Belinsky.
What is a story involving a card that is made higher or better because there's just some story around it? What is the word association you do there?
So an example I would say is that Brian Piccolo card that I just evaluated. So that's his only card. And the reason for that is because following that season, he passed away. So that's just a story as behind why there's a sort of a cult following on people who like his cards. He was a pretty good fullback and running back for the Bears while Gale Sayers was hurt, and then was a fullback when Gale Sayers came back. One game he left the field early, and a year later he ended up passing away. So for maybe guys like Greg Cote's age or somebody like my father's age, that was somebody that guys wanted to actually go and collect because there's only one card of his, and it's his rookie card. And there is a unique story behind it. And Greg also mentioned the fact that, he had a movie, Brian's Song, that come out that also put some more influence around the, who he was as a person and a player, which then would cause people that are maybe Bears fans or Piccolo fans in general to pay or maybe overpay for that card.
Nothing in life is free. Time for some ads.
All right, let's take a second here for our friends at Advance Auto Parts. I love telling you about Advance Auto Parts. They always have our back. Been with us for years. We appreciate their commitment to the show. They get the show. Unlike any other sponsor we've had, I think. They get the show. Have you heard about their advanced same-day offers? Get this advance offer, free curbside pickup and free in-store pickup within 30 minutes on most in-stock products. That's the kind of speed that gets you back on the road with the parts you need and gets you there fast. So head to your Advance Auto Parts store today. Advance your auto at Advance Auto Parts and participating CarQuest locations.
Now, I want to move on to baseball real quick. There's these two cards here. Dad, you say who they are because I've never heard of them.
Okay, well, these are...
He has a story behind why these should have value. And
right.
Let's see if he makes sense.
These are Mike Kekich and Fritz Peterson, the two New York Yankee pitchers who, in the early 70s, not only traded wives, but traded entire families, including dogs.
Swingers! These are the swingers! I falsely accused Button of swinging, and these are the swingers!
And because of that story, I suspect they're worth more than they ordinarily would be. I may be wrong.
What do you think they're worth?
Oh, gosh. If Piccolos were... I mean, as a tandem, I think together as a set, to me they're worth $50, but I could be way off.
Hammer?
$5 to $10, I would say, for those two cards.
Okay.
Now, if
combined or each?
I would say maybe each, but I would say you're splitting hairs at that point. But, if you maybe find, a couple that are swingers and happen to be baseball fans, they may be willing to overpay for something like that. So that's sometimes part of the strategy when trying to sell cards is finding somebody who, might find more value in it than maybe somebody else.
Hammer, you mentioned the splitting of hairs and just the joy that swept across Billy's face because he's such a poorly disguised anarchist. What a shit elaboration question from you. Is it worth $5 or $10?
I mean, damn, it's double the price if it's combined.
Chris, thank you, Billy. Chris, what else do you have there?
All right, let's stay with baseball. Let's do Pete Rose. All right, this is one of the ones he's written on.
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
This is good. What's written on that? First of all, let's see how much money he may have cost himself here. What's the writing on that one?
All right. It is just a plus 15 and a plus 81, and then at the top a 1 circle.
All right.
I have Dad, what was the math you were doing when you were 6?
You wrote on a Mickey Mantle card, and it just had some numbers on it, and it was like this. These numbers. One day you decided to write on your valuable cards. Do you have any recollection of what you were doing here?
I was probably 8 years old and not imagining how much this card might be worth in 50 years. I was just a dumbass kid. I was really into stats at that time. I fell in love with math because of baseball and statistics. And so those figures probably relate to something numerically on the back of the card, but I have no idea what.
It's so great that you then grew into an adult who had no use for the numbers in sports. No use whatsoever. So what do you think this card is worth in pristine condition, Greg?
And it is a 1967 Topps number 430.
It looks like a good card. It's in very good condition. All of these seem to be in very good condition. What do you imagine? Yes, Stugotz.
I mean, it's the hit king, Charlie Hustle.
What do you imagine that is worth? Thank you, Stugotz, for nothing. For just nothing.
I'm trying to enhance the sale of the card. I mean,
Yeah, right, the hit king.
Yeah.
Why do they call him the hit king?
Wow, without the writing, I would hope it would be worth a few $100s, but I imagine with the writing on it, it's almost worthless. I may be wrong.
So if there wasn't any writing on it, it would be going for about $50 right now.
That's all?
Okay. So what's it
Wow.
worth? What's it worth with the writing on it? Nothing at all?
I would say maybe a few shekels. That's about it.
$50.
Oh, that hurts. That hurts, Greg. You just threw away 50. The 8-year-old you just threw away $50. Caring about math of all things. What else do you have there, Chris?
All right, let's move on to my dad's favorite player of all time. Probably won't sell this card. Carl Yastrzemski rookie card. 1961 Topps Star Rookie number 287.
Try him.
Yes.
Try him if you don't think he'll sell that card. What do you think it's worth, Greg?
I mean, sentimentally, it's priceless, and I probably would not sell that card.
Let's
If it's
find
not
out.
worth if it's not worth a few $100s, I'll be crestfallen.
Okay, let's find out
Those
what.
corners, though, Hammer.
Yeah,
Tell
this
us
one
to
is
get the
not.
corners.
This is not one of the better cards. To
All
be
right.
honest.
Well, let's just say it was more pristine than it is. Let's see if we could test Greg Cote's principles here. I'm hoping we can. What's that card worth perfect? If it's perfect, Hammer.
I would say if it was perfect, about $100.
Oh, disappointing.
To also clarify, that is Yastrzemski's second year card. Now, I know it says rookie on it, but his rookie year in Topps would be 1960, and there is another ball player that is also on that card. So that would be considered his second year card, which is why there's a star on the rookie. So Topps calls it a star rookie, being a second year card.
Gotcha.
So
How much is the rookie card, Hammer?
I think the rookie card is about, I would say, double that, maybe $150, $200, depending on the condition.
Chris, what do you have? What's up next?
Roberto Clemente, Bob Clemente, as it says on the card. 1969 Topps number 50. I'm getting emotional.
That's not a rookie card, though, right? That is not a rookie card. What do you think, Greg? What are your thoughts?
Boy, I've been way off so far. Again, I would think this is in the $100 range, maybe. I love that he's called Bob instead of Roberto. That's worth an extra $1.50 just to me.
Good condition. Hammer, what are your thoughts there?
In that condition it's in, it's going for about $50 to $75, because I personally think that is in good condition. The corners are very sharp. The centering is very good. And that's something that I'd maybe consider to send in to get authenticated.
Okay, I don't feel like any of these have resulted in the fanfare or should result in the fanfare. Anything under, we were all expecting more than $100 cards, right? I'm hoping that we escalate. Otherwise, we'll go through the entire collection and every answer will be the same. So let's see if there's some dramatic escalation here anywhere or some disappointment so we could kick up the drama on Antique Roadshow here. Chris, what do you have?
Bob Gibson, 1968 Topps number 100. Now, Bob Gibson, his cards go for a lot of money on eBay. This seems like a hot commodity.
Greg, what do you think that's worth?
Boy, I've been guessing high. I'm saying 100, and it's coming in 50 or 75. I think this is in that same category. I would say $100 would be my default guess.
Bob Gibson, one of the scariest baseball players ever. That is a great-looking card. It is in exceptional condition. Hammer, what do you think there when you look at that card?
The Bullet Bob Gibson would be about $30 right now.
Okay. All right, so we are in the same place. Let's rifle through these more quickly then. If all we're going to get is $30 and $50. Chris, what else do you have there?
I just want to get a big number, so I'm going to grab one of these Mantle cards. This one is a Mickey Mantle Topps 1969 number 500.
Nice.
Pretty good condition.
All right. No, very good condition. I'm going to stop going to Greg on guesses. We will just at some point get from Greg what he thinks is his most valuable card, and we will see if there's drama or disappointment there. Hammer, what are your thoughts on this? That is not a Mantle rookie card. That's just a Mickey Mantle card.
The 69 Mantle is in really good condition. The centering, the top to bottom, is a little off. And what I mean by that is you can see more of the white on the top of the card than you can on the bottom. But Mickey Mantle is one of the biggest collecting people within this hobby. People have collected them for years. So that card is worth $200.
Yes!
Wow.
Yes!
Nice.
Chris, get the one the Mantle card your father wrote on so we can get the heartbreak and the delight of Greg Cote realizing that the 8-year-old him cost the adult him several $100s. Get the Mantle that's got a lot of writing on it. What can you tell us about that card, Chris?
This is a Mickey Mantle, 1966, Topps, number 50. But, of course, it's written on.
All right, Hammer, if it hadn't been written on, what's that card worth right now with writing on it? Nothing, right? Nothing. You get a couple of bucks for it.
Correct. A couple of bucks, maybe $5, $10 for it with it written on.
Okay, but if it hadn't been written on, what would it be worth?
$150.
Oh,
wow, Greg.
I guess my question would be to you. I'm not sure why you decided to write on some of the best players from your collection. That I guess would be my only question. I'm not sure if you were golfing with some of how the numbers are written, but that would be my only question to you as a kid. Why maybe you didn't choose some of the guys that weren't as popular to draw along.
Well, the answer is that I was a dumbass 8-year-old. I'm not thinking in terms of who's a great player and who isn't. I've written on plenty of cards that are worth 10 cents even when not written on. So
it does look like the writing.
There was no rhyme or reason to that, really. I wish I hadn't, obviously, but at least I didn't write on most of them. At least I would say 95% of them are unwritten on.
It does look like the writing on a putt-putt, that you were putt-putt golfing and just writing down numbers. Chris, let's go to a couple of more here. I want a payoff. We're ziplining with Mina. I feel like I've lost the entire Zoom call with bored people. They're tired of hearing about $50 and $100. Let's escalate the stakes, Chris. Let's bang through this. Grab me 10 cards, and I'm going to ask the Hammer to just go through these fast as we can to finish this segment off. What do you have there, Chris Cote, right now? Give us the info.
Nolan Ryan, 1969, Topps, number 533.
So that is his second-year card that's going for $100 right now.
All right, let's roll through. Let's make it rain $100 bills here. Let's see what we've got here. Give me another one, Chris. All of these are in pretty damn good condition. I haven't seen a bad one yet, except the one that the 8-year-old dumbass wrote on. Chris, what do we have here?
Tom Seaver, 1968, Topps, number 45.
That is his second-year card as well, and that's going right now for about $50.
Oh, yeah. Right.
What happened, Stugotz? Tom Terrific. What do you have there?
Tom Terrific. If Greg had these rookie cards, they'd be worth a lot more. What's Seaver's rookie card going for, Hammer?
Yeah, all of them are rookie. If they'd been rookie cards, we thought we'd have some rookie cards in here, which all are worth a lot of money, correct?
Correct, and that is the trend that you're seeing. Some of these are second-year cards or third-year or fourth-year cards, and we haven't necessarily seen many rookie cards outside of the Piccolo and the O.J. Simpson.
We badly need to get to, Chris. We badly need to get to a card that shocks Hammer, and he doesn't even tell us the truth about it because he just rushes to Greg Cote's garage and tries to steal it from him. What do we have next, Chris?
I have 3 more cards. I have a Hank Aaron, a Johnny Bench, and a Mickey Mantle. I think, based off what Hammer said, we should save Mickey for last. But let's go with Johnny Bench first.
All right, so any of them rookie cards? Let's see what we have from Johnny Bench.
This is a 1969 Topps, number 95.
And that is Johnny Bench's second-year card. And one way you can tell that is by the trophy there. It says Topps All-Star Rookie on it. And that one is going for about $50 as well, since the condition, the centering is slightly off.
Sensing a theme.
Stugotz here for our friends over at ZipRecruiter. Love telling you about them. Dan and I always tell you, please support the people that support this show. ZipRecruiter been doing exactly that for many, many years now. We appreciate them. We love them. And listen, sports is using technology to take the fan experience to the next level. The NBA used more camera lenses and 5G bandwidth to put fans courtside. Snapchat let fans virtually walk the official NBA floor. Digital fans in the stands could watch the games virtually and pump the players up. When it comes to hiring for your business, there's one solution that's been advancing its technology for years, ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Dan. When you post a job on ZipRecruiter, it gets sent out to over 100 top job sites. Then ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology identifies people with the right skills and experience and invites them to apply to your job. It's a winning formula. No wonder 4 to 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. So if you want to step up your hiring game, give ZipRecruiter a shot. You've got nothing to lose. Why? Because right now, you get the chance to try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Dan. That's ZipRecruiter.com/DAN. What are you waiting for? Go to ZipRecruiter.com/Dan. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Chris, give me another one. Let me see what else we've got there. Let's finish this off. I just want to bang through 10 random ones or just whatever you got there. Let's see if we find some nuggets among players that maybe aren't this kind of famous. What else do you have there, Chris?
I have Hank Aaron. Trying to figure out which one this is. This is the 1969 Topps number 100.
Yes, so that's the 69 Aaron. That's going for about $50 right now.
How many?
50.
About $50.
What about the number 1968, number 110?
Now the 68 seems to have a little bit more desire, so that's going for about $100 right now.
Hammer, you keep talking about how they're kind of printed off center. What's a good example of like a misprint that elevates the value of a card?
So misprints probably in the 80s and 90s and things of that nature. That it was popular during that time of collecting. There is a very famous Billy Ripken card that is an error card, which is sort of the same lines as miscut. But in terms of nowadays, it doesn't really add any extra value to the cards. But back then they hand cut a lot of those sheets, which is why you see, quality control just isn't quite there compared to the stuff nowadays where the centering on most of the cards is much better than what you see in some of the vintage stuff.
This is now my dad's just coughing while I'm trying to talk here. Vern Fuller, Greg, explain why you have this one in the bunch. It's a Vern Fuller card.
Right. My whole life, when I leave the dinner table and I've had a lot to eat, I say I am fuller than Vern Fuller. And so that player, obscure as he is, has always had a sentimental attachment.
I can confirm that.
$5,000.
I can confirm that every time since I've known him, from back when the Herald had a cafeteria table that we would get up from, Greg Cote does indeed say, I'm fuller than Vern Fuller. Hammer, what is this card worth?
That card would be put in the dollar bin.
I'll never sell it.
No, what do you mean? That doesn't deserve. Yes, it does. Chris, what else we got there? Let's bang through 10 of these. Let's go.
What about Freddie Patek? Why is he in this?
Freddie Patek, I believe, was the shortest player either in Major League history or certainly at the time at, I think, 5'3" or 5'4".
What is that card worth, Hammer?
I would also put that in the dollar bin next to
$500, Greg?
He has 500 of them.
Chris, what else do we have there? Do you have any? Have you looked through to see where the rookie cards are of anybody, even the cruddy players? Because if you haven't identified just rookie cards, we're going to keep getting 50 and 100 and 10 and $1. Do you have any rookie cards to show this man so we're not wasting any more of his time? I will let you go through them in the interim, Hammer. Please tell us about where people can find you if they want information on their cards or if they want to just become more knowledgeable in this realm on YouTube and where else.
Yeah, so please download the Sports Card Investor app in the App Store. Basically, it's an application that we have where you can see all of the top trending cards within the last 7 to 30 days. So if you're somebody that is just getting back into collecting or just starting, this is a great free tool that you can use to kind of see what players and which of their cards are potentially trending right now. So that's something that I recommend all of you to download. And some of these cards should be in there, in particular different grades, so that you can see what maybe that they're going for.
Chris, do you need more time to see if you can find some rookie cards? Because I do have another question for Hammer. I'm wondering if he's following this thing that we've been talking about, this ridiculousness with the non-fungible tokens and everything here in this realm that we've been talking
I cannot wait to find out that my highlight of a Thomas Sadaransky assist is worth more than the entire Greg Cote lot.
So, Hammer, go ahead and set this up for both the audience that doesn't know what we're talking about when it comes to all of these currencies that are making an appearance that we don't quite understand yet. What is the place called? Top what?
NBA Top Shot, Dano.
Okay, so what is this, Hammer? Do you understand it? Is it something that's interesting to you? Is it something that, like Mike believes, is going to be popular and lucrative? Or is Billy right when he says, get out of here, this is video that nobody owns, they just get to say they own it?
No, it's something along the lines of digital collectibles, and I do think that there is a future in something like this. Now, I've heard that argument, it's just a YouTube clip or it's just a clip of a video, but to be honest with you, there's no reason why I can't print out, an O.J. Simpson rookie card and cut it into how the card would look and put it into a sleeve. So there's some comparisons in that, meaning that, just because it's a video clip doesn't necessarily mean that, it's worthless necessarily, or that, I can just go watch it on YouTube. But one thing with the physical card space is there's just a lot of hoops you have to jump through. And in terms of if you want to get cards authenticated and selling them online and shipping and things of that nature. And this digital collectible space, like Top Shot, makes that marketplace experience much more fluid. And almost kind of like, stocks or Robinhood, where you can easily buy and sell shares, at the click of a finger, compared to maybe doing something on eBay where you'd have to sell the item and package it and then ship it, and then maybe the person doesn't like it because there's a nick on it or because the card's not centered the way they thought. So then they ask for a refund, So that's just one area where people do start to like these digital collectibles, because the buying and the selling aspect of it is very, very easy. And it's something that I do think over time you will potentially start to see more people tend to, as we're sort of in this technological revolution with how things are. And it almost seems like we're turning into something where, both can exist within the physical card space and this NFT space.
Hello, Finney. Good to hear from you again. Greg, did you have something for the Hammer?
Such boomers right now, for the love of God. We got two old people in Stugotz and Greg Cote that cannot grasp the notion of muting and unmuting when you want to speak.
Hammer, I wanted to ask you about that 69 Nolan Ryan card that you estimated for $100, because when I went online and tried to find out myself how much it might be worth, I went to a site that estimated the market value at $454, and they had a wide range of least to most. And so why, if you're saying 100 and this website is saying 450, how do I, as a card holder, know who to believe and who to trust and what's right? I just don't know.
Well, my first question would be, when was that published? When did that individual put those prices out? Most of the prices that you're seeing or looking at are what they're being sold at today, March 3rd, March 4th of 2021. So sometimes what you see is people will put a price on a card because that's what it's at right at that moment. Now, an example I can give you is Hank Aaron recently passed, and a lot of his cards spiked because of that. They've dropped now significantly since that news broke, and it's been some time after that. So a lot of it is based just on the market and where it's currently at in that moment in time.
How big are fluctuations like that, like not including a situation like death? Is there an instance where a card one day is worth something and the next day it's double and then it'll go back down?
Definitely. And you see that a lot with a lot of the newer players, first, second year, third guys. You'll see an NBA player come in and, have a 30-point game or something last year like Kobe White. I think he had 2 or 3 30-point games in a row, which then caused his cards to spike almost 100 to 200%. So more with the modern players and ultra modern players, you will see gains like that based off of how they're performing.
Chris, what do you have? Close us out. I need a bit of a fireworks show here. We've been building this up. I hate when we overpromise and underdeliver. I've enjoyed doing this, but I want an enormous payoff.
We're at $923 right now with all the cards.
All right, so that's good. That's good, and he's got many more, but I want to pay off. Let's see if we can find. The big fun in this is to see if there's a needle in a haystack here with something we can show this man to blow him away. So let's see, and he might be lying to us. He might know that they're worth thousands of dollars, and like I said, Greg Cote might be mysteriously murdered tonight. But Chris, what do you have there right now? Show me the best. This is the end of the fireworks show right here.
I have 2 cards left. The first one is this Honus Wagner one. My dad claims Honus Wagner cards are like most expensive cards of any card. And is this true, Hammer? And what could you tell us about this card?
So I believe the card that he is referencing is the T206 Honus Wagner, which is a tobacco card from the early 1900s. So one recently sold, I think, for about $2.6 million. I think it was a week or two ago.
What?
But that's specific to that tobacco card and in that particular set of Honus Wagner. So that particular card that you have in your hand there.
Hold on. Now, wait a minute. Just real quick. Honus Wagner cards, in general, I think that all I associate with expensive cards is Honus Wagner. I don't know how you have a Honus Wagner card there, because Honus Wagner is an early 1900s player, and we've been looking through the 60s and the 70s. Did they make Hammer?
Well, that's one of these sets of cards. It's not, we're almost showing this as a joke because it's from a set of like 32 cards, and they're all, Tris Speaker, and they're all from that era.
So this is
I doubt if it's worth much of anything.
All right, so this is a 1960s Honus Wagner card. This is not an early 1900s Honus Wagner card.
Yes.
Okay, so what is that worth? I got very excited. I'm sorry for my over-enthusiasm there, but I thought a Honus Wagner card might have some worth.
I would say that card goes for anywhere between $10 to $20. Most of the commemorative cards don't necessarily bring that much of a demand.
I'm so
just like you said, Dan, he was a player in the 1900s, and this was a commemorative card in a set that was produced in the 60s.
I deserve that, like right in my face. I deserve that.
I actually think I uncovered something here in this studio that might be worth more than the entire Greg Cote lot.
What?
Really? Yeah. Hammer, in my hands, I am holding a 2018 Topps Stugotz card. It is autographed. It is in mint condition. I have it, as you can see, in a plastic display case. What does this bad boy fetch me?
I would say, depending on the buyer and the listener, anywhere from maybe $50 to $100 right now.
What you got, Greg?
That's funny that you say, what do we have? Because we have here is a Mike Ryan Boston Red Sox player.
And wait,
with a fake autograph.
And it is
67 223. What do you got here,
Hold on.
Camera?
It's signed. It's not signed by you, is it, Mike Ryan?
It's signed by me.
I would say that would go in the dollar bin next to Vern and the other gentleman.
All right.
All right, this is it, guys.
Oh,
We've made it.
yeah.
This is the mountaintop Hammer. I need you to lie to us. Dad, mute yourself.
Dad, mute yourself.
I love it.
Here we go. Mickey Mantle, 1968, number 280, Topps.
It's in excellent condition and one I would definitely send in to get authenticated, and that's also at $200.
Nice. All right. We finish with a bit of a bang here. We're done here. Nothing. You got nothing to throw at him.
We got over $1,000
No. I know. But look, I don't. Am I the jackass here? Because I just want the giant payoff at the end. It doesn't. That's why I got so excited about Honus Wagner. I feel like the audience is with me on that. No.
What will you give me for my Obi Toppin 3-pointer on NBA Top Shot? If he wins a slam dunk contest.
Right. That's big.
Hammer? Can I get you in the NFTs?
I have some NBA Top Shot moments, to be honest with you. Have some better caliber players than Obi Toppin, but I would have to pass on that particular NBA moment.
All right.
Hammer, thank you for your time. We appreciate you doing this with us.
I'd like to ask Hammer something before he leaves. I have a basketball in my hands right now. It is signed by the entire Miami Heat team after they won an NBA championship. That includes LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, and Chris Bosh. How much are you going to buy this from me for?
My first question would be, is it authenticated?
Yes.
So with guys like that, I would say you're definitely going to find something at least $500, maybe even more than that, since it is the big three and it is, a team that had multiple championships. Now, I ask about the authentication because that is usually going to determine where it's going to.
This is where, yes, this is where, yeah. Here's how I know you're an authentic liar. That was in my garage for a charity. I have the authentication. That is not yours. That is the Miami Heat lent us that. You stole from a charity.
I did. Stugotz here for our friends over at Advance Auto Parts. We love them. They have been supporting this show for years. They get the show. They are friends of ours. And because they're friends of ours, that means they are friends of yours. That's all we ask. Dan and I always ask you, please support the people who support this show. Support the people who get this show. Advance Auto Parts does exactly that. They are amazing. We love them. Look, I rely on Advance to keep my car going, and with options like buy online, pick up in-store, and curbside pickup, they make it really easy to get the part you need, where you need it, when you need it. So head to Advance Auto Parts, where you can get the parts you need to keep moving. Advance your auto, only at Advance Auto Parts and participating CarQuest locations.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz Podcast.
I don't know where to start with this segment because there's some Candace Parker sound. Did you see this back and forth last night, Stugotz? Because you've been saying for a while on the subject of Shaquille O'Neal that he wasn't going to be good at all that he's a mumbler, but that environment, and there's going to be a documentary about that show and the chemistry of friendship. 4 parts, I think, Turner is doing on the greatest sports studio show we've ever seen. Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith, and Ernie Johnson. And when I see Shaq go in there, and when you see Shaq go in there, and that first year was rough for them, Stugotz. There was a lot of criticism, and Barkley will tell you that first year trying to absorb Shaq and his mumbling and stuff was hard to do. But now they've arrived at the point, and this feels a little bit, Stugotz, like equality when you're watching Shaquille O'Neal analyze basketball and his analysis is myopic, it's short-sighted, it's narcissistic, it's about him. And you hear Candace Parker make Shaquille O'Neal sound dumb on television because she knows more about how the game has evolved than he does. Listen to this sound from TNT because this is where the events of the last 5 years, both in basketball and in the streets where you see these social equalities making an appearance. Here is Candace Parker making Shaquille O'Neal, bigger, stronger, faster in that sport for a long time, sound dumb how he's analyzing today's basketball.
The NBA switches now, right? So
why? Whatever happened?
Because everybody can shoot threes.
Whatever happened to man up?
Because you're going to be manning up trying to recover back to your man, and they're going to hit a three just like Jokic did.
Well, but whatever happened to pre-rotating and
then they move the ball around. And
you got 4 to 5 3-point shooters on the court. You ain't going to rotate enough time.
Not rotating. Not rotating.
Yeah, but you got to take the easy pass away. Like, if you ain't going to switch, you got to take the easy pass.
So that's what I'm saying.
But now you have guys that can throw the ball from one side of the court and find the guy in rhythm.
Okay.
But that easy 1-5 pick and roll, the big is so far back like Shaq used to be all the time.
And we won a championship.
But here you go. Just throwing a shot at you, big fella. I love you.
No, but did we win a championship?
We did.
Thank you.
Because you started getting up on the screen. But you got to, as a big, you have to get up on the screen. You're not going to be able to switch that if you don't get up on the screen and switch it.
And Adam, the guard's got to get over.
And if you're not switching, the post players have to get up to the screen so they can recover back quicker to their man.
Right.
So you're right.
If you're higher up, you get back quicker.
Are we ever going to go back to where we man up and pre-rotate and show and get back?
It's not the game today.
Okay.
Too good of shooters.
Nuggets won tonight by 31.
Everybody's not too good of a shooter, Candace. Stop.
You said nobody on the court.
I said everybody's not shooting like that. There's only a couple teams that shoot like that. Don't look at him. Everybody's not shooting a high percentage from three, Candace.
Okay, are we saying everybody in general, or are we saying the majority?
You just said.
On the Nuggets, if you pre-rotate, they're going to kill you from the corner three. What did they shoot from the three? Really? They shot 11 of 30. So they shot 36%. This was an off night.
Wade just looked at a stat and go, how did she do that?
Now, that made it sound... She made Shaquille O'Neal sound like he doesn't understand basketball today.
Well, Shaquille O'Neal also made himself sound like he doesn't understand basketball today. Candace did a great job. Dwayne backed her up. But Shaq did a great job on his own of displaying his lack of today's basketball game.
Stugotz, can you back away from the microphone? I understand that
old
we've
habits
got
die hard.
Things to learn around here. Well, Mike, to be fair, the audio has changed around here a number of times in the last few years, and now we're in a place where we're finally fixing the audio, and Stugotz is trying to do it by Zoom, and he's forgetting that he shouldn't be leaning into the microphone. I don't feel like we've gotten enough mileage out of how the hell did Stugotz get this vaccine.
Yeah. It makes me real uncomfortable. Heaters, so I can just develop a smoking habit. I don't know. It's real shady, and I don't think I want to start pulling back the layers to this.
Listen, I got a doctor's note. I had a pre-existing condition. You guys can come up with your own pre-existing conditions. Mine was heaters, perhaps a little high blood pressure. A couple of days later, boom, Moderna in my blood. How about that?
Chris, why are you wincing, or why were you wincing at the Shaq Candace Parker sound? Is it because you could feel in your soul those times that you felt dumb in this?
I could relate to that. Saying something on air that maybe you don't even really believe, and all of a sudden the whole room is laughing at you, and you just have to get defensive. I've been that way too, where you get oddly. He was really sensitive there. Shaq was. That's the main thing I took away from that. He was just like, don't, like, there was one point Candace, and this happens sometimes with Billy in the studio with Roy. I'll say something stupid and I'll see Billy like look at Mike like, can you believe he just said that? And that's what happened during that segment. Candace Parker looked at D Wade after Shaq said something, and that's why Shaq's like, don't look at him. Don't look, like, because that was like, Candace gave a look to Wade like, can you believe this guy's actually getting paid to do this?
I love that show. They're constantly showing their ass about how little they know about today's game. I think that's sort of the buy-in at this point. I don't actually go to Shaquille O'Neal for any sort of basketball advice. I go to see him trip when he's tried to beat Kenny Smith to the monitor. I think everything that he's ever said is pretty transparently coded through his own prism to make himself look good and point to his greatness while he was on the court. He was a great player for his times. Times have changed, and old-timers can never wrap their head around that.
I love, though, to be able to see it, though. The idea that at the end, Shaq's like doing the Stugotz of, yeah, I know I sounded dumb there, but how about championships?
It's why having Wade there is great. Wade has actually been a lot better at this than I even assumed. I thought he was going to be pretty good, but Wade bleeds across both those eras. He won a title with Shaq, and then he won a title with positionalist basketball, and he even told Shaq, yeah, you started having to come out on that pick and roll even more back in 2006. So his knowledge was actually a good one. I felt a little icky with him deferring to his former teammate, if we can call it that, on whenever Wade chimed in, because Candace had him dead to rights.
Dan, if you had to guess, why is a guy like Shaquille O'Neal, when I say that Tim Duncan was better than him, he sends me a direct message asking for my number, wanting to come down here and punch me in the face? Like, why is he so sensitive? Shaq is considered one of the greatest players in NBA history, one of the best big men of all time. He's got 4 rings. Why is he so sensitive?
It's an excellent question. He's a human being, is my answer, even though I understand that he looks bigger and physically stronger than the rest of us. We all have our places of insecurity. I would love to think that I and my upbringing, whatever it was so strong that once I got to championships and once I got to being physically stronger than everyone else, and I'm Shaquille O'Neal, I would have a confidence in every aspect of my life in every place. I can't answer for you, though, why any one human being would be sensitive, what would be in their upbringing, what would be in their path. That man, for I don't know, a quarter of a century, longer than that, has been a total circus freak who is more comfortable in his body than anyone that size I've ever seen. You get to be that size, you're not Jolly Giant. Oh, it's Andrew Shinsis. When you ask him, how's the weather up there, he spits on you and tells you it's raining. It's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar looking back on his life and saying, oh, my God, I should have been nicer to people. The guy, it's Kevin Durant praying that he's, as a child, that he doesn't want to be tall. You get to be Shaquille O'Neal. Your magazine covers, you're across decades somebody who is physically stronger than everyone else in a man's sport, and people don't understand why your game doesn't evolve and why you weren't better than 4 championships, because we've never seen a human being who physically looks like that in that sport.
Dwayne Shinsis, fine.
Yeah, I know what he did there, Mike. He actually mixed up Dwayne Shitsiness, I can't say that name, and Andrew DeClerc. I am telling you, that is exactly what happened there. DeClerc and Dwayne. That's how that happened.
Is that how that happened?
Well, what did happen?
Yes.
I thought it. What is his actual name?
Dwayne. He's no longer with us, I don't believe. Either.
Okay, so he was a 7-footer, Dwayne Shinsis.
Yeah.
And what did I call him?
Andrew.
Okay, thank you for getting in there and correcting that. That is.
Stugotz made it the worst holiday ever.
I want.
I did.
So I don't know the answer to your question on why Shaq's sensitive.
Who killed it on AEW last night, by the way.
I would feel sensitive if I looked that dumb on television. Wouldn't you?
I mean, you're saying you haven't?
I just did right there.
Yeah.
And you think I'm not going to get defensive about it? And you think I'm not going to get sensitive about it? Like, I don't know. And I've been doing this for how long?
I spent a career looking dumb on television and radio. I mean, who cares? I mean, big deal. I'm dumb.
We all have our insecurities, and that, like, usually it's tongue in cheek, or at least he can cover it up by tongue in cheek. Rare can you actually seize on him spitting out, because I think that was a low key ugly moment with the don't look at him for backup. It just lands differently when it's not Charles and Kenny Smith.
What do you guys make of the development, though, that it seems pretty clear that Inside the NBA is not at all in touch with the modern NBA? Does it kind of reduce the entertainment value? Because it is, at that point, all style and no substance.
Oh, but this is what's great about it, and this is why that show is quietly so well produced. If you know the personalities involved of... Ernie's the one there working, and the other guys, in terms of meticulously getting in on knowing everything so he could traffic cop, giant personalities who come in, and Charles will tell you this. This isn't me stereotyping the old lazy athlete. Shaq's got a million projects. He's doing his things. He comes in and just his job is to be Shaq. Charles has been Charles across decades. Just be Charles. You don't have to know anything, and we'll make everything work around you. And here's the genius of it, because this is what's coming on that show, as they have occupied this space so creatively for so long. They've got the reinforcements coming to go show you that the old guys are old and out of touch. They just showed you, and it looks like Candace Parker, and it looks like Dwayne Wade, and it looks like Lefko. And I'll tell you another thing about Dwayne Wade. If you think he's doing his 40s lazy about broadcasting, he ain't doing it the way those guys are doing it. Wade is going to immerse himself in, I've got to keep myself relevant over the next 10 years, and it's not going to be as easy to be Charles. Draymond will do that.
Yeah.
I'm going to research and prep, and I'm going to be excellent at this, because I'm not someone who's going to be mediocre late in life and suffering with midlife crisis because I couldn't figure out how to do something well.
I kind of prefer Tuesday nights. I just really like the combination of those talents, and I go to Thursday night just because it's familiar, and I like the characters at this point. I'm not going to go to Larry David for real pop comedy. It's always going to be through the prism of him being an old-timer experiencing modern age. I also think Kenny Smith is actually underrated, because when you hear old fogey talk tainted in their own bias and their own selfish desires to make themselves great and not relinquish that to the modern day, Kenny kind of does a good job of playing devil's advocate without being too tough on them. So Kenny's actually a real underrated part of that show.
I just kind of wonder, like, Barkley's shtick is, I'm an authority, right, who knows, like, if you disagree with my opinion, then you're wrong. But when he's so very clearly sometimes, like, they play a game where he doesn't know the names of NBA players. Yeah. When he's so very clearly out of...
Witty, be careful. Are you coming after Barkley right now? Is that what you're doing?
No, but
he's an authority who sometimes doesn't sound like one.
The lead pipe lock, they make fun of his predictive analysis and all that. Shaq's a bit more sensitive when it comes to that.
To be fair, though, guys, because I think it's a bit weird, and it's a great place to study how sports fans grow up and where it is and how it is they get their information and how your parents become your grandparents right in front of your eyes. That sports show, that's happened to it in the last 5 years, when Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal didn't understand how a jump shooting team was winning the championship and didn't care enough to do the math. Charles Barkley might be by volume the worst three-point shooter ever. I don't know if he knows it or not. I don't know if he cares about those metrics at all. I don't know if Charles knows that he shot threes a bunch and shouldn't have been. And so that show has aged literally right in front of your eyes in the last 5 years. And the producers noticed it because look at the reinforcements they brought in because they're like, wait a minute, this show cannot just die. Let's go get Dwayne Wade, Hall of Famer. Let's go find specifically the pieces that we need who are going to work at this so they don't become what Charles and Shaq have become, which is they just get to go on the show and be themselves. And Mike, I think we should explore some more because that's going to be some of the discomfort that makes an appearance with this aging process. Shaquille O'Neal doesn't even see what he's doing when he is pointing out that Candace Parker is running into Dwayne's arms when Candace Parker wasn't afraid to go back. She just made Shaquille look dumb, and she went to Dwayne and said, like, help your guy out here. You want to help him here so I'm not the only one making him look dumb.
Yeah. That she was actually looking to Dwayne to help Shaq out and soften what was going on over there. What's really funny about Charles Barkley grading the modern age and sometimes falling on the wrong side of it is, I know you just mentioned the damning stat that by volume is one of the worst three-point shooters of all time. If he played in this era, he'd be perfect for this era. I have no doubt that he would develop that shot, especially the corner three. Are you kidding me? A guy at that size who turned into one of the greatest rebounders we've ever seen when he's not much taller than I am. That guy could actually be your small ball guy. He was so skilled. He could play in this era. I have no doubt about it. So I always sort of laugh when he tries to cast it aside because it only makes him greater. He was really the start of that evolution, the smaller big that can come out and defend.
Mike, you're right. I think he'd be great as well if he played today, but he is the worst three-point shooter in the history of the NBA at 26.6%.
He would never work.
Dwayne Wade is 7th, by the way, on that list. Dwayne Wade.
And you used to be able to say that about Dwayne Wade, and you remembered what happened towards the latter stages of Dwayne Wade's career. He got to the point that you actually had to put a hand up. So I think Charles Barkley just never, at any point in his career, ever had to work on that shot. Now you have guys that have turned themselves. Look at Brook Lopez. You mean to tell me that Charles Barkley couldn't have figured out the corner three? He'd be a nightmare today.
So get me that sound, if you would, also from this show on Dwayne Wade saying why Chris Bosh is better than Julius Randle. Because one of the things happening here when it comes to the aging of sports fans, understand that this is happening in the last 10 years. This is something that we have lived through. There are people old enough on sports topics right now that feel very comfortable to be dumb about how great Chris Bosh was. Never mind how great Charles Barkley was, where they compare him to Julius Randle. And this is funny to watch. It's happened over the last 10 years. That's happened. But before we get to that sound, I've told you guys before, right? Charles Barkley, in terms of a physical being, that doesn't make sense leading the league in rebounding the way that it did, because next to Mike Ryan, he's not lying when he says Charles isn't that much taller than Mike Ryan. First time I stood next to Charles Barkley, I purposely did it back to back because I was confused. I'm like, this dude's not taller than me. How is it possible that this dude led the league in rebounding? And I put myself back to back, and he was a little taller, just a little. You know how you measure at the shoulders, Stugotz? He was just a little bit taller than me. The difference was, though, when I turned around to see where his shoulder was, it was his shoulder, but it was also the top of his ass. He's able to box people out because the top of his ass is where my ears are.
Before we get to the sound, is this what we were doing with our free agency? We're inside the NBA
That's
now?
Right. Inside the NBA.
So you can call me biased, but here's the thing with Chris Bosh. And Chris Bosh do not get his just due, period. And when he was in Toronto, he did not get it. But here's the thing. I love Julius Randle. I'm a big fan of Julius Randle. When you go look at the numbers, the last 3 years, Julius Randle has been putting up Chris Bosh-like numbers. Let's say around 22-10 or 20-10. Chris Bosh did that for 5 years in Toronto, making an All-Star game at 21 years old, doing 22-10 for 5 years. And then that's one act of his career. In his next act, he had 6 All-Star appearances in Miami, playing with the likes of LeBron James and also Dwayne Wade, and being able to win championships doing that, win 2 championships. So a guy in his 7th year in the NBA that's made 1 All-Star team that's really trying to build his career, that's unfair to him. And it's definitely unfair to Chris Bosh because he's one of our legends in our game. Just because he wasn't loud, just because he wasn't fancy, do not mean that he wasn't a great player. So that's a dumb question. Whoever asks that question, don't be dumb.
I don't know how dumb it is. I mean, listen, I'm a Knicks fan. I've been waiting for this moment for my entire life. I think they're a game above 500. They're 4 out of the 1 seed. They're 2 out of not making the playoffs. Who cares? Julius Randle is an MVP candidate, okay? And so I don't think anyone is actually saying that career-wise he's had a better career than Chris Bosh. But the last 3 seasons have been exactly Chris Bosh in Toronto. And if Julius Randle gets the opportunity to play with LeBron James or play with Giannis or play with one of those guys, then he'll end up having as many titles as Bosh does.
If you're Wade there and you're sitting in that Barkley seat, you need to say Julius Randle there. Even just make the headline, Wade says Randle better than Bosh.
Cortez, can you get in here real quick? Because you jumped up, and I just want to marvel at the art of how this segment is going to end. But Cortez jumped up. I don't know if he saw exactly the same thing I did. Cortez, why'd you jump up like that?
What is Stugotz doing? Like, Chris Bosh's numbers were diminished by being around LeBron James.
And this is why it's a work of art, Cortez, because in the subject matter that we were just covering, inside the inside of the NBA, on how that show ages, you just saw how ours does. Stugotz saw all of this and has no idea what he's talking about. Like, Stugotz saw the last 10 years of basketball and still doesn't understand why Julius Randle isn't actually Chris Bosh. Doesn't understand how Chris Bosh's game would have aged. Doesn't understand how Julius Randle... What do you mean no? What are you shaking a sausage finger at me for? This is how we become inside the inside of the inside of the inside of the asshole of the NBA.
I am saying Chris Bosh has had a better career. I am saying the comparison over the last 3 years is not so absurd. But Bosh went and chose to be the third person on that team, and he tacked on a couple of titles to his resume. Julius Randle can do the same thing, and if he does and plays 10 more seasons, he'll have the same career.
Okay, well, he's 26 years old now and just made it to his first All-Star game. I believe Chris Bosh was 26. By the time he made it to Miami, he'd already solidified himself as one of his generation's best power forwards. Julius Randle's on his 3rd team. Can we please stop just because the Knicks are a game over 500?
No one cared about Chris Bosh until he joined the Heat. Nobody. No one. Not a single person.
He was a 4-time All-Star, I believe.
Yeah, no one cared.
Stugotz, you didn't even see the original tweet. Admit it.
I did it.
Nothing in life is free. Time for some ads.
All right, let's take a second here for our friends at Advance Auto Parts. I love telling you about Advance Auto Parts. They always have our back. Been with us for years. We appreciate their commitment to the show. They get the show. Unlike any other sponsor we've had, I think. They get the show. Have you heard about their advanced same-day offers? Get this advance offer, free curbside pickup and free in-store pickup within 30 minutes on most in-stock products. That's the kind of speed that gets you back on the road with the parts you need and gets you there fast. So head to your Advance Auto Parts store today. Advance your auto at Advance Auto Parts and participating CarQuest locations. Stugotz here for our friends over at ZipRecruiter. Love telling you about them. Dan and I always tell you, please support the people that support this show. ZipRecruiter have been doing exactly that for many, many years now. We appreciate them. We love them. And listen, sports is using technology to take the fan experience to the next level. The NBA used more camera lenses and 5G bandwidth to put fans courtside. Snapchat let fans virtually walk the official NBA floor. Digital fans in the stands could watch the games virtually and pump the players up. When it comes to hiring for your business, there's one solution that's been advancing its technology for years, ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Dan. When you post a job on ZipRecruiter, it gets sent out to over 100 top job sites. Then ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology identifies people with the right skills and experience and invites them to apply to your job. It's a winning formula. No wonder 4 to 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. So if you want to step up your hiring game, give ZipRecruiter a shot. You've got nothing to lose. Why? Because right now, you get the chance to try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Dan. That's ZipRecruiter.com/DAN. What are you waiting for? Go to ZipRecruiter.com/Dan. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Billy, you'd love this. I'm on a Julius Randle's basketball reference page, and there's an ad for Paramount Plus. It's a picture of Jeff Probst. It's a picture of Julie Chen from Big Brother.
Yeah.
And the third picture is CT from The Challenge. I love that.
Wow,
Like,
they went away from bananas.
Like it's $9.99 for CT from The Challenge.
I wonder because I had CBS All Access. I wonder what I'm paying now. Like I thought it was something. My price go up?
No. Oh, so it's $4.99 with commercials, $9.99 without commercials.
I saw that, but I thought that they said that they were introducing the $4.99 later on.
I don't know. I think like I logged in with my CBS All Access account, so
I hate direct debit so much because I don't realize how much money I'm wasting on shit that I don't actually need.
Well, CBS All Access is one of the things I was wasting money on because I have it for the Champions League, and when there's no Champions League, I'm paying money for something I'm not using.
Yeah.
Well, which by the way, you just articulated the business model. Like
that's what everybody.
The business model is people forget what's on their credit card bill, so they just keep renewing it.
Mm-hmm. What can we make to convince someone one time they need it, and then forget that they have it?
Yeah, which is basically like where I'm at. I mean, I use The Athletic a lot, but the first time I was like, this is going to renew, and it's going to show up my credit card, but I want to read this one article.
I started setting reminders on my phone to cancel things.
Yeah.
One of them was Quibi, which is why I remembered it the other day.
So there's an app that will tell you when you like, it'll say your subscriptions are here, and it's a subscription, and I forgot to cancel it. Like I paid a subscription to remind me to not use subscriptions.
Yeah. I've seen that.
Here's the funny thing is that like everyone was like cord cutting because like, man, cable prices are so expensive. I'm just gonna start, and now it's like gonna be 10 times as much because every network essentially has decided, you know what, my network is worth $10 a month. So now every network is $10.
It's going to be hilarious when there's a streaming service bundle and we're just back where we were with cable.
Yeah, that's where it's going.
Do you realize how old I feel if you guys are doing this? Because Paramount Plus is coming out. I'm like, what is that? Who did that? Wait a minute. What do you mean? CBS? Okay, that's Paramount Plus. And I've got so many charges on my credit card where I'm like, what the hell is that for? I haven't watched Showtime in 3 years.
I don't understand why it was decided at one point that we just add a plus to everything, and then that's what we name our streaming network.
That was Skipper on South Beach Sessions, right? He basically said, I think ESPN was the first one through the Plus store, and he said that they did like a bunch of market research, and at the end, after all, like, just call it Plus. And the funny thing is that ESPN Plus used to be like, well, like the plus is that it's extra, whereas now everyone, like, that's the bulk of their content is the thing called Plus. It's not extra, it's the thing.
Well, this is what we were just talking about when we were talking about Inside the NBA and how things change. We're watching the way television is getting swallowed right in front of us. What's going to come out on network television that anyone wants to watch? All these institutions, CBS, NBC, they're like, oh, shit, Peacock. Wait a minute. Oh, my God. Netflix was buying television. Wait a minute. Netflix became television, and none of us were watching. Then Disney Plus gets in the game because they're like, oh, we're Disney. We got behind, but we're Disney. Le Batard, get out of here. We're Disney. Here we go. Plus, we'll start over on Plus. We don't need digital. We don't need anything because you know why? Pixar. Eat that, Le Batard and Show. Eat it.
Pixar, Star Wars, Marvel properties. It's amazing. Disney stock reached an all-time high in the midst of a pandemic when the crux of their business model is theme parks, and they haven't even opened in California.
And this is why, for as much as we care about all this stupidity around here, we were a clerical error. Like, what? That's causing headlines? Get that out of here. Brush it out of here like some popcorn stains that are all over the floor in Disney.
I believe Chris Cote has the greatest idea in show history in the chat right now. Le Batard Show Plus. Let's get on that.
It's not an idea. That's just, you just added a plus sign.
Billy, relax. Billy.
I mean, the plus industry is $1 billion industry. What are you talking about? It's a great idea. Just throw plus on something.
By the way,
I'm already calling mine Stupidity Plus. How about that?
Netflix, overrated. right? I think we all agree.
Wait till
Netflix
you-
is
Totally.
not the best. of the,
Chill.
Netflix is not the best of the
Billy,
streaming.
wait until you get a load of Netflix Plus, though.
That's what I need. I'm over Netflix. I've done it all. I'm over Netflix.
Can I tell you what's great about Netflix, though? And Chris and I have had this conversation before. The search on Netflix is far better than watching an actual series. There is nothing like a good Netflix search. It is amazing. I'm telling you.
I spend more time searching for shows on Netflix than I do watching shows on Netflix. And if
Right.
I go to type into search, God help me, because I'm not going to find anything that I actually want. I'm going to find the fourth and third version of that thing or wherever it was recreated. I can't get the original movie of any movie. It's like, oh, Van Wilder 3. And it's like, I didn't even know they made a Van Wilder 3.
Now they have like the columns, like TV shows, comedies, documentaries, and then you can scroll right or left on them. I hate when those end. I want those to just keep going forever.
Forever.
Like unlimited just scrolling of all the documentaries. Never stop. Just keep recycling them. Don't ever stop.
You know what I want to know? How do we get to the point where they decided, you know what we're going to do because we control what it is that you're watching this week? Because that's what Netflix does. They control what it is that you're watching. And then they'll put like, these are the top 10 things everybody in the world is watching. Watch them or you're an idiot and no one will like you.
Love
That's
the
basically
top 10.
what it says, right? Yeah, but the top 10 is like, how the hell did everyone in the world decide all of a sudden to watch a Jason Statham movie from 2011? Like, get the out of here with that, honestly.
Wow, Billy's upset.
Jesus. God. If this floor wasn't sticky in here, I would have just done mind blown and fallen out of my chair. But if this is happening to you guys, how do you imagine it's going for me? Because I know Cortez is writing in the chat that I'm a fraud and he wants to unleash the chickens on me because I said I haven't watched Showtime in 3 years because, yes, you're right, Cortez, asshole. Yes, I watched Your Honor. And I watched
Thank you.
And I watched Comedy Store, but there are all sorts of charges on there that I'm confused by. For example, the show with Jordan Peele, where I saw Twilight Zone was canceled after 2 years on CBS. And I didn't think there was anything that was going to get me to CBS. Not anything. Because of the way we've... Seriously, they just do old shit. And it's just... Most of it is really not very good. And trying to feed 60 to 90-year-old demo that also has money and needs to be fed. That's what CBS is doing. And it's one of the reasons they're dying, or changing now, pivoting to Plus. Pivoting because they were one of the last ones to see. Oh, wait, television. It's changing. We lost. Whoa, wait a minute. We're way behind Netflix. And so now Paramount Plus launches. And I got Twilight Zone with Jordan Peele because how is that going to fail, Stugotz? Twilight Zone with Jordan Peele, and I've been charged since for CBS All Access Plus before Paramount Plus or whatever the hell that thing is called. And I don't know who to call when I try to get it off my credit card.
You can't get it off. I have the same thing.
They're like, who's calling? You're supposed to do this on the internet. And I'm like, no, I want a person on the phone that I can talk to for my $4.99 a month, and I can't get them because everything's computerized and no humans work for these companies anymore.
Your first problem is trying to call someone to get this off your credit.
It's not landline. It's not computerized. You're talking to People Plus.